Good evening, everyone. I now call to order the regular meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Now, please join me in standing and singing as we play a video of the national anthem, and then remain standing, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance together.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay. Please remain standing. Ready? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now's the time for our moment of solemn expression, and we're going to be led by Rabbi Miriam Phillips from Temple Bat Yam, and then we have a special proclamation after she's concluded her prayer. So, Rabbi, you have the floor.
Holy One of blessing, bestow your blessing on these elected leaders who have stepped up to lead and serve the city of Costa Mesa. Instill them with insight and understanding, perseverance as well as patience. Open them to the truths on all sides of each issue, that they may see clearly to the heart and serve shared needs. Inspire them to work together in pursuit of this community's greatest aspirations, even as they watch over its daily needs. Oh God, we are thankful for the dedication and giving spirit that brings these human beings before us, prepared to devote their energies to the benefit of all. Grant success to all their endeavors, fruitfulness to the works of their hands. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shebarech et oskei hatzibur. Praised are you, God, sovereign of the universe, who blesses those who work in the service of community. Amen.
And so, Rabbi and ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to recognize May as Jewish American Heritage Month. And so we have Rabbi Phillips here to accept a proclamation. This month we honor the many contributions of Jewish Americans who have made to the fabric of our nation and our city of Costa Mesa. Jewish Americans have enriched every part of American life, from science, law, and politics to arts, business, and civil rights. They have helped shape our democracy and stood at the forefront of movements for justice and equality. Jewish American History Month is an opportunity not only to celebrate, but to educate, to learn about the history, faith, and culture of experiences of Jewish Americans. Let us use this month to uplift the voices and stories of Jewish Americans past and present. May we continue to work together to build a city where we are all valued, respected, and live as we are. And then just a few excerpts of the proclamation, which we're going to present together. During May, our nation celebrates Jewish American Heritage Month to highlight the inspiring history of Jewish Americans and amplify joyful, powerful stories of Jewish life in America. Through the bipartisan efforts of Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the late Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania, Jewish American History Month was established in 2006 by President George W. Bush to honor the contributions and achievements of Jewish Americans. Jewish Americans have played a vital role in shaping the culture, economic, scientific, and social landscape of the United States, contributing to the advancement of arts education, business, medicine, and public service. The Jewish community in Costa Mesa has been an integral part of our city's diverse and vibrant cultural mosaic, bringing with them a deep commitment to family, faith, and community. The celebration of Jewish American Heritage Month provides an opportunity to reflect on the historical struggles and achievements of Jewish Americans and to celebrate the enduring spirit of the Jewish community in Costa Mesa and beyond. Now, therefore, I, John B. Stevens, Mayor of the City of Costa Mesa, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Jewish American Heritage Month and encourage our residents to celebrate the history, culture, and contributions that Jewish Americans have made to American society and the City of Costa Mesa. Rabbi, you have the floor again.
Thank you for that meaningful proclamation. It's so powerful to be seen by our leaders and appreciated for the part that we Jews play in this wonderful tapestry of Costa Mesa, Orange County, and the U.S. So thank you for that, Mayor and the Council.
Now we're going to take a photo with the council and the rabbi. Okay, so we have now one big presentation that we're going to do involving a lot of Newport Mesa Unified School District athletes who have really distinguished themselves in spring sports, and we love to have you here, and we're very glad that you're here. We recognize several of the district's student athletes and teams who have won championships over the last few months. First, we will recognize an exceptional student athlete from Newport Harbor High School, Karina Ruffini. Karina recently finished 5th in the entire state of California at the CIF State Diving Championships in Fresno on May 15th, scoring an impressive 451 points. She also earned second place in CIF Southern Section, continuing a remarkable season of elite level competition. A member of the Junior Olympic national team, Karina trains locally at OCC under the direction of head coach Caden Cogbill and with Coast Divers. Her diving journey began during the COVID pandemic when she took up the sport as a safe outdoor activity. And from there, she flourished into one of the top divers in the state. Karina currently holds the Newport Harbor High School record for highest diving score with an astonishing 583.8 points. She has also been recruited to compete at the Division I level and will be attending the University of Houston in 2026. We congratulate her on her state and CIF success and wish her all the best as she continues to represent Newport Harbor at the highest levels. To talk a little bit more about Karina, joining us is her coach. We mentioned him before, Caden Cogbill. Coach, you've got the floor.
Is this the right spot?
Yes.
Oh, okay. In summer of 2020, I got a phone call from Karina's mom asking about our diving program. We had just been displaced due to COVID, and we're training all over Orange and LA County. She took a chance on our team. We did find our home at OCC starting in 2021. Karina has been an integral part of Coast Divers as well as the driving force of Newport Harbor's newfound diving team. And in 4.5 years, she has come from someone who I had thought to myself at one point was not cut out for the sport of diving to a Sunset Conference champion 3 years in a row, a near CIF champion, 5th in the state, a NISCA All-American ×2, an AAU All-American times more than I can count, and a USA Diving National semifinalist. In July of 2026, I'll have to stop coaching the most dedicated individual I have ever had the pleasure of coaching, as she will continue her adventure at the University of Houston, and I cannot wait to see where her career takes her from there.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Next, we celebrate a historic achievement from by a senior from Newport Harbor, the Newport Harbor swim team, Aiden Aries. Aiden is graduating this year, but he's leaving his mark on the school record books in a big way. At the recent CIF championships, Aiden broke 3 long-standing school records, including one held by a legend. His record-breaking time in the 200 individual medley surpassed a mark that has stood for over 2 decades, originally set by, get this, U.S. Olympian Aaron Pearsall back in 2000. By the way, he's a big deal for some of you that weren't born until after 2000. Big deal. Okay. Anyway, in addition to the 2000 individual medley, Aiden also helped set a new school records in the 4x50 relay and the 4x100 relay. Aiden's dedication, discipline, and exceptional performance have helped elevate the entire program. We congratulate Aiden on his incredible season, his record-breaking performances, and his exciting future ahead. To talk to us more about his accomplishments, joining us is his coach, Kevin. Coach, you've got the floor.
So I've known Aiden Aries since he was 9 years old. I started coaching him over at CMAC, over at Costa Mesa High School. And to see him his senior year shine as bright as he has been amazing. So here are some of Aiden Aries' amazing accomplishments. He has the school record in the 500 freestyle, the 200 IM, and the 100 butterfly. He was also on the relays that broke the school records in the 200 free relay and the 400 free relay. And 3 of his teammates are here today, James, Dash, and Connor. He was the Sunset League champion in the 100 butterfly and the 500 free. At CIF, he decided to switch it up and swim the 200 IM. There in the finals, he dropped 5 seconds in the finals to beat Aaron Pearsall's school record of 149.2. He ended up going 148.83. And at CIF, he got second place in the 100 butterfly. He was a CIF state qualifier in the 200 IM and 100 butterfly. He made the finals in the 200 IM where he finished 11th place in the state. I'd also like to recognize he's also a Newport Harbor High School valedictorian this year. So, amazing senior year, Aiden.
Wow, congratulations, Aiden. Thanks, Coach Kevin. That's just amazing. Great job, Aiden. Okay, so next we honor the Costa Mesa High School girls beach volleyball team and coaches. The Mustangs made history this spring, claiming their first ever Empire League championship in girls beach volleyball. Costa Mesa finished the regular season with a strong 12-5 overall record, including a 10-2 mark in league play. Aubrey Spallone and Isabella Ortega-Davidson went undefeated in league competition. Coach Jacob Lee and his staff have guided this program from its start just 4 years ago into a championship-winning team. Congratulations to the entire team and coaching staff on your hard work and passion and perseverance that have made Mustang history. To tell us more, we have Coach Jacob Lee to share a few more words. Coach Lee. And Coach, you know, as we said, you can bring the players up and provide them the certificates.
Yeah, I'll do that. But before I get into that, I just have a few things to add to their accomplishments this season. This was the year of firsts, not only for winning the league title, but the things that we did leading up to it led to us winning this league title. We were the first school in history in all of Southern California, to my knowledge, at least in Southern California, to host the first ever high school non-league beach tournament in January. And then we were the first ever school in school history to win the official CIF tournament ever in CIF history in the making. These girls put in a lot of time and effort to get to this point. And then, like you had said, it started 4 years ago when, as the assistant coach in this program at the time, where we started this beach program just to get them up and running. And like the other thing too is with Izzy and Aubrey as well, with them going undefeated in league, that also included winning the individuals tournament that we had to host to going into a CIF bracket as well. I'm super proud of these girls. There's just a lot of firsts in the making for this program in the right direction. So, ladies, I'd like to call your names up, please, to be honored by the city now. Andrea Restrepo. No. Anu Gurigan. Aubrey Spallone. Avery Contreras. Bella Nguyen. Brooke Mihana. Claire Desi. Isabel Ortega Davidson. Kendall Curran. Lila Jagerlener. Luca Miller. And of course, my assistant coach, Bob Swanson, who I could have done without. That's everyone, so.
All right, thank you, Coach. Thank you one more time for the team. Next, we're going to honor and recognize the Newport Harbor High School boys wrestling team and coaches. The Newport High School boys team placed third in CIF's Southern Section Dual Meet Championship. In the individual CIF championships, the sailors showcased remarkable talent. Senior Damian, Prima, thank you. I don't like to get it wrong. Thank you. Captured the CIF championship title, followed by second place finishes from senior Anthony Mano and Asa Goff. These outstanding performances reflect the guidance of a committed coaching staff. The Sailors' success this season continues to build on the program's tradition of excellence. To talk more about the season and the victory is Coach Benjamin Rogers. Coach, you have the floor.
Thank you guys for having us. I think a good sign of a coach is someone who gets out of the way, right? The kids do all the work day in and day out. I'm really only responsible for sitting on the bus, making sure they're getting from A to B. I really want to recognize how well these kids did this year. We had 6 CIF placers, we had 4 Masters placers, and we had our first state placer since 2008, in Anthony Mano. So I'm going to go ahead and call people up. Everybody is integral to the team, but we'll start with Ricky Villasenor. Cole Hopner. Chris Lopez. Cole Anderson. Nathan Dorman. Also a Harbor valedictorian, Damian Prima. Art Martinez. Anthony Mano. Seth Perry. Lewis Goff. Eric Madrigal. Asa Goff. And then, of course, my mentor and friend, Dominic Ballone. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach. Everyone, one more time. Great job. Great job. So our final team that we're recognizing has been here before, and and I'm glad that you're here. It just shows that you have a tremendous program that year after year you accept our invitation because you have such a great program. So we recognize the Newport High School boys water polo team and coaches for their CIF Southern Section Open Division title victory. This season, the Newport Harbor water polo team had the challenge of not having a home pool and practicing at Estancia and Costa Mesa high schools. Despite the challenge, the Newport Harbor team had a, get this, 31-0 undefeated season. And this gets to my point I made before. Their victory was the third Open Division title in 4 years and the 15th boys water polo championship in program history. Luca Vanderwoode, known as Luca Magic, scored, if they write it, I read it, scored a match-high 4 goals, including all 3 goals in the fourth quarter and a game winner with 54 seconds left. To talk more about the win and this wonderful team and program, we're lucky to have tonight Coach Ross Sinclair. Coach, you have the floor.
Thank you guys for the honor. Obviously, yeah, we have a storied program, but every year is different. These guys have the challenge of adding to the legacy and being remembered forever. And it was a season to never forget the challenges of waking up every morning, playing and training at Costa Mesa and Estancia High School before school, playing home games at CDM and Estancia, senior games at CDM and Estancia is obviously difficult for seniors to want to go out. And you know, they want to play at their own home pool, but that didn't get in the way of what we wanted to ultimately accomplish, which was to win a CIF championship. You mentioned 15 titles, 3 of the last 4, but one thing that wasn't mentioned is they finished as national champions as well. So I'm going to call them up individually, and just want to thank you guys again for honoring them. It's really special. So start with the coaching staff. Joey Fuentes. Coach Shane Luth, Coach Cody Moore, and Coach Chris Whiteleg. All right, some of the athletes aren't here. They're working or getting ready for finals. Unfortunately couldn't make it, but Fletcher Appledorn. Declan Bartlett, recent commit to Naval Academy here. Cash Borgreave, Simon Burtnick, Riley Sarita, Connor Cloherty, there's Connor, Dash D'Ambrosia, Luke Harris, Weston Hartel, there's Weston, there we go. Dylan Hunt. Tyler Jameson. Kai Kaneko. Leon Kim. James Mulvey, heading off to the Naval Academy. There we go, Mulvey. Mason Netzer. Connor Ohl. Hudson Parks. Carter Pence. Caruso Polanzani. Marco Rizoff. Santino Rossi. Shane Santoni. Jeff Slutsky. Luca Magic Vanderwood. And John Whiteleg. Thanks again.
Why don't you guys stay up there? Now we have the council's going to come down and take photos with all the teams. And Karina and Aiden, we've got a certificate for you. I don't know how it got messed up, but you will take a photo with you too. But since you're all there, let's take a photo start with the water polo team.
Aiden?
It's okay. We're a W sport.
First time I ever met with you guys. Thanks, man.
Okay. Okay, so now's the time for public comments. Anybody who's in the chambers or on Zoom can, oh, sorry, roll call. I forgot roll call before. You're not going to let me do it again. Roll call and then closed session report. Madam Clerk, you got the floor. Let's do a roll call. Voice roll call.
Councilmember Pettis. Councilmember Marr. Councilmember Bewley. Councilmember Gameros. Councilmember Reynolds, and if you would please make a statement.
Hi, yes, I am here participating from the publicly noticed location, and I am alone.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here.
Thank you.
City Attorney Barlow, do you have a closed session report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session, but we will be resuming closed session at the end of the meeting. We have a number of items still to consider, and there is possible reporting out on one of those items. Thank you.
Okey doke. Now we go to public comments. We'll start with people in the chambers. Everybody gets 3 minutes. You can talk about anything that's not on the agenda. For things on the agenda, you have to wait till they come up. You can also talk about the consent calendar. And then once we're done with people in the chambers, we'll go to Zoom. You're going to hear a beep after 2 minutes. Please wrap it up. Your mic will cut off at 3 minutes. Flo, you have the floor.
Seeing all of these swimmers and divers reminds me of my 2 weeks of being an interpreter at the 1984 Olympic swim venue, a highlight of my life. I am here to nominate myself as official cheerleader for our Public Works Department and also our city clerk. I sent a PowerPoint this morning to our city clerk's office showing some of the weeds that were on Joanne Trail because the CMABS team participated in Love Costa Mesa, and our assignment was to clean up the Joanne Trail. I took lots of pictures of the weeds and sent the PowerPoint to our city clerk. Brenda took the initiative, wonderfully so, to send my PowerPoint to Raja Sithuraman, our Public Works Director. And he emailed me this afternoon to inform me that our Brightview team was on the Joanne Trail today, cleaning up the weeds. So bravo, bravo, bravo to our city clerk and to Raja Sithuraman, our Director of Public Works. They are awesome.
Thank you, I agree. If there were more people here, Roger, there'd be more applause. There would be more applause. Everybody would be clapping, I'm sure. Okay, yes, Ian, you have the floor.
Yeah, Ian Stevenson. I had to go after Flo because she's wearing her Love Costa Mesa t-shirt. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and council members who were all part of helping make Love Costa Mesa Day happen this last Saturday. We're still tabulating a lot of the results, but over 600 volunteers doing 78 projects all throughout the city, impacting our schools, nonprofits, neighbors who were having troubles with their yards and stuff. There was just so much done, and without your support and the staff, city staff, just incredible. Raja, always great to see you there, just in person, even being a part of it. Just so much of the team. I just want to thank you. And then also, while I'm up here, I wanted to just speak in favor of this mural project that the Arts Commission has pushed forward. Feel like it's another incredible opportunity to involve the community at a broader level, businesses, artists, and it gives the city an opportunity to tell a story about the city that can really be powerful and really advance that we indeed are the city of the arts. So just wanted to speak in favor of that, and mostly thank you guys for your ongoing hard work. So thank you.
Okay, so I don't see anybody else on the floor that wishes to speak. Anybody on Zoom? Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. We have one more person from the floor.
Never done this before, so I came prepared with notes. Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey Benyon. I'm actually a Costa Mesa High School graduate myself, class of 2012. And shout out to the volleyball team that absolutely crushed it. And I've grown up in this city, deeply connected to the community here, and I've been a worship leader here and a musician at the local church and worked at different businesses here. And I've also seen the firsthand power of art and culture in our city. And I too want to voice my strong support for this historical mural arts project. These murals will not only beautify our city, but also celebrate Costa Mesa's rich history, reflecting the stories and values that make this place so special. Public art has the unique ability to foster pride, spark conversation, and connect generations. I did theater and music and drama at Costa Mesa High School, and after I graduated, I recall the excitement when Costa Mesa High School had this new performing arts center that was built. This beautiful place, right, decorated with an impressive mural on its exterior, and it gave the campus this fresh, new, vibrant look, and it inspired students in the community. And I couldn't wait to go back and see a show after seeing this new entire space. So, and after being there, going to see a show, it was evident that the space itself was transformed. It made it a source of pride, and it itself is a testament to the impact of public art. So, as someone who's grown up here and who loves this city, I urge you guys to also support this initiative and invest in this story that will leave a lasting legacy for future generations. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Zoom.
Russell Toller, please.
Russell, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I don't think I've ever said this before, but I heartily agree with everybody that spoke before me, especially our friend Flo and Ian. I think I've also participated in Love Costa Mesa Day. I think we should be really proud as a city where stuff like that happens. So it was a really cool event. I want to speak on murals. Typically, I only talk about safe streets and active transportation, but you know, murals are part of the public realm, and that's what we're always talking about, making our public realm better, more beautiful, more comfortable for everybody. And so I watched the Arts Commission meeting and what Vice Chair Dradarian proposed. I want to commend his boldness in that motion. And I think it, like Ian was saying, it makes a lot of sense taking funds that were allocated to something that's kind of concentrated and undefined and maybe in the misty future to something that can be done kind of now, spread all over the city, get a lot of eyes on it, include lots of artists, include the business community that could help foot the bill, include the historic society, and maybe help boost civic pride in the process. I just wanted to voice my support for that. So that's all. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Russell.
No further speakers.
Close public comment. Okay, now we're going to go with council member committee reports, comments, and suggestions. First up from District 6 is Councilmember Jeff Pettis. Hold on one second. Do I have to? Let's see. There we go. You got it.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it real brief tonight. Just reminded me of the mural comment from the gentleman on public. I agree with 100% with the public-facing art initiative that the city deserves, especially being the city of the arts. And I've taken on the art issue with my appointee, and Fisher Dradarian is doing a great job. I want to keep mentioning him. And this is, and Russell Toller just commented too, that's why we're working on having a dedicated public art facing fund for the Arts Committee. More to come on that in the future. So that issue is definitely not going to die. I think it's important for the residents of the community to be able to enjoy the city and the art that we have and the artists in the community, especially local artists that can showcase their work And, also I want to, I don't want to give Raja too much love, but I'm going to give him a little bit more love tonight. He deserves it. No, I had a recent resident who put in a Costa Mesa 311 app inquiry for a missing stop sign painting on the street on Monte Vista and Santa Ana, I think it was, and there's immediate attention. Don't know if it's finished yet, but there's immediate response to that. We really appreciate that on the east side, the attention to the individual. I think that's the most important thing that we do as a council, to make sure that the city and its infrastructure is looking good. And to that end, I begrudgingly, but not begrudgingly, I say that kiddingly, we're going to be doing a Costa Mesa 311 app walk this weekend. So I know that makes the staff cringe, because I'm sure there'll be more 311 app inquiries put forward, but it's important for me to be as a city council person, to be out there in the public and actually seeing the stuff myself and being involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up from District 1, Councilmember Mike Bewley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Point of personal privilege, I think, is the term we use around here. I'm going to use my time tonight to recognize a dear friend who passed this last week, a fellow by the name of Pat Chamberlain. He lived over in the Wimbledon neighborhood. He leaves behind a beautiful wife, Nicole, his two kids, Gracie and Kelly. Pat and Nicole, they had quite a love story. They met on the campus as toddlers at St. John the Baptist, and then they were an integral part of that campus throughout the years, and then they both traveled on to modern day, where they dated for most of their high school years. They do tell their story that there was a brief period where they broke up, but they still constantly kept tabs on each other. They got out of school, married, and it's just an amazing love story from grade school up until Pat passed last week. And around July or August, big fella, about 6'4", 40 pounds. He started losing a ton of weight, feeling a lot of pain. Was going all over the place to get diagnoses or whatever. And in October, they found that he had an aggressive form of lung cancer that was spreading throughout his body. And again, we lost him about a week or so ago. I met Pat when my kids were at SJB, and we were both girl dads at the time. And we both made the great decision to join this outfit called Indian Princesses. And you head off with your daughters, and you do urban camping or camping, and just had a lot of wonderful bonding moments. And Pat was, just a tireless person. And I'll tell you, he's been multi-generational Costa Mesa resident, business owner, Villa Rentals. They're kind of an institution down in Newport and here in Costa Mesa. Pat was just a bear of a friendly guy. I can tell you, city of Costa Mesa and our community in general just lost a wonderful person. Never a down moment, always positive. He never engaged in gossip or negative commentary about people. He was just such a positive individual, and I guess that's probably why God called him home early. And anyways, thanks, and ask that we adjourn tonight in his memory.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Thanks, Councilmember. Next up from District 2, Councilmember Lauren Gameros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just have a brief, something briefly to say this evening. So I just want to recognize Memorial Day. For those of you who don't know what Memorial Day is about or haven't had a chance to take the time to think about it, Memorial Day honors those who have given their life in service of our country. So I would like to also, in addition to Councilmember Bewley's dedication, I'd also like to dedicate this meeting in honor of those who have given their life for our country in service. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up from District 3, Councilmember Andrea Marr.
Yeah, thank you to the folks who spoke about Love Costa Mesa Day. That's always one of my favorite days of the year. So I thought city staff, the entire Love Costa Mesa Love Our Cities initiative did an incredible job. It's just wonderful to see so many people come out for a day of service and love of their community. I also attended the Project Hope Alliance anti-gala. So for those of you not familiar, Project Hope Alliance works with kids in our school district who are living in somewhat uncertain housing conditions. Many of them are living in cars or with friends. And Project Hope Alliance makes sure that those kids stay in school, that they have the resources and services they need by coordinating with the school district, with social workers. So was very proud to support that organization. I'll keep it pretty brief tonight. The only question I had for the chief and the acting city manager, there's been a lot of talk in Santa Ana about the number of contacts that Santa Ana PD is having with immigration and customs enforcement. I was wondering if we could get an update in terms of what we're seeing here in Costa Mesa. I think there was a quiet period, and then in the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing a lot more about ICE being very active on the streets of the city. So it would be helpful to understand where we stand right now, whether we're seeing an uptick in Costa Mesa, whether that was a blip, and what the characterization of those interactions have been. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on Zoom, Councilmember Arlos Reynolds from District 5.
Hi, everyone. I'll give a shout out first to the Love Costa Mesa team and Trellis, the Love Costa Mesa event. It's great to see how that's grown every year. Just a beautiful day in the city to drive around and see volunteers working at businesses, at school sites, at resident sites. Want to thank Raina Cuddle and Ian Stevenson for your vision and persistence in creating and growing that event, and all of the volunteers who make that event happen. And Flo, thank you for starting the hype team for Public Works. I will continue to advocate for that, and I'm excited that we have a first cheerleader on board. One note I want to share with the council and community, an update from a activity related to the Randall Preserve, also called Genga, also known as Banning Ranch. The advisory committee that will be giving advice on the final plans for that project started on Friday. I am the city's appointee on that committee. There are 3 plans: the resource management plan, the public access plan, and the third is escaping my mind, but 3 plans that are out for review right now. The coastal resilience plan, 3 plans that are out for public review right now. There's a 60-day window, so the review of that is due July 14th. I'm going to ask the city to help with noticing both for those advisory committee meetings, but also for all of the plans and public input opportunities. Probably most who are actively watching this meeting are aware of the huge opportunity with this site, almost 400 acres of public park and preserve adjacent to Westside Costa Mesa. So wonderful opportunity to shape the future there. And I'm excited to be on that committee because one of the key challenges is appropriately balancing the public access with the sensitive habitats, with sensitive and sacred cultural resources. And those are some of the challenges that we are working through at Fairview Park. So lots of opportunities to learn and share ideas there. On a related note, on the Randall Preserve site, I was made aware that the fire had broken out in the last 4 or 5 days. Something that very rightly residents near that site are very concerned about. I understand it's not our jurisdiction, but certainly the impacts on our residents are something that we need to address. And so I'll be following up with our fire team. I'd like to really understand not only what we're doing, but if we can use our connections to figure out how to make sure that our residents and business properties in Costa Mesa are protected from risk from activity at Randall Preserve, also Talbert, and of course Fairview is ongoing. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up is our Mayor Pro Tem, Manuel Chavez from District 4.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We truly are in a season of celebration right now. So I have 4 quick updates on what I've done, and I want to echo 3 points made by my fellow council members before my comments are over. First, I had the great pleasure So when the mayor can attend events, I get to go on behalf of the city of Costa Mesa. And I had the pleasure of attending the Les Mills Awards with assistant manager Cecilia Garro Daly. They're here at Vanguard, and we got to see 40 amazing students from all our schools in Costa Mesa, Costa Mesa High School, Newport Harbor High School, Estancia High School, Early College, OCC, and Vanguard receive awards from the Chamber of Commerce for their academic achievement. So that was a really great way to start the festivity of the season of celebration. Yesterday, I had the chance to attend the Save Our Youth Scholarship Award Night ceremony, where over 55 students from the Newport Mesa Unified School District received over $300,000 in scholarships. Again, it's always great to see celebrations of our youth success, and it's really joyful to see all the smiles of the parents and the kids. I also had a chance to celebrate our amazing board CEO, Michelle Richards, with Councilmember Reynolds last week. She's leaving us at the end of the month, and she's done a really good job working with the City of Costa Mesa and a lot of key initiatives for Costa Mesa. The fairgrounds was one of the first organizations to open up to do drive-up food banks during the pandemic. They did vaccine clinics during the pandemic. And anytime we needed their assistance with almost anything in Costa Mesa, they're always willing to be a good partner. I'm be sad to see her go, but I'm happy we have a good tie with the event center across the street. And yeah, I had a chance to celebrate that with Councilmember Reynolds. And finally, the mayor and I had a chance to tour Families Forward's food pantry in Irvine. For those that know, my district has the bungalows, 12 affordable housing units for at-risk families. So every family in the bungalows was at one point homeless, and they have a child that was at one point homeless. And in a nice collaboration with Families Forward, those 12 families get once a week free food pantry treatment. So we got to see it in person. It was in Irvine, but I do hear they deliver it to them in Costa Mesa. And again, it's just collaboration is the key in all of this, right? We identify families, we the city push to make sure we build appropriate housing, but also the nonprofits are coming in to step in and fill that void of all the needs available. And finally, I'd be remiss to not mention Love Costa today. It's always great to see Trellis family and community pull off this amazing event, and it's even greater to see the community themselves come out and support each other. So again, Ian, thank you. Raina, thank you. To the whole team, thank you for that amazing celebration. And thanks city staff for, as always, hosting it here and making sure everything works well in the background. And for the council comments, I want to echo Member Pettis on the arts mural. I am interested in the arts mural idea. Again, I do think it's befitting on us to give the Arts Commission a direction. They don't really have one yet, and they're creating their own vision. But I do think that's something that's worth considering and talking about. To Councilmember Mar's point about an ICE update, I would appreciate that. I'm not sure to what capacity we have that information, because that is a federal agency and not a local one, but any update would be helpful for folks that have questions. And finally, to just follow off on Councilmember Reynolds' point about the Randall Preserve, tomorrow is actually the first community outreach meeting for the public, and it'll be held at Fieldworks. There'll be two more, one more will be in Costa Mesa, and one more will be in Newport Beach, but this is a historic opportunity for us to really define this huge property and how its features going to impact Costa Mesa. I'm calling it one of our green belts, right? Because that will connect to Fairview Park, Talbot Park, give us a nice corridor of green, corridor of natural environmental space, and it's really, really close to some of the most low-income communities in Costa Mesa, in Westside Costa Mesa. So don't miss out on this chance really to find the future of our community. And again, tomorrow at Fieldworks, 6 to 8 p.m. Thanks, guys. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. So I have several things I just want to mention briefly. Again, thank you to everybody who has participated in Love Costa Mesa Day. It's always a highlight of the calendar here in Costa Mesa. Thank you in particular to Reverend Ian, who spoke. I heard some great testimony about the work that you're doing on an individual basis to save lives. So during my travels on Love Costa Mesa Day, so you're a treasure. And so is Raina Cudhill, who does a lot of work. From the staff and the council perspective, there was a lot of participation, many directors. The firefighters were out in force with the largest flag you've ever seen in your life there. It was wonderful, and the point person should be recognized is Francine Jimenez, who coordinates with Raina and gives us the information we need at the staff and council level. So thank you for everybody who participated in that. Finally, finally, it's not, I don't have, I'm saying finally, but it's not my last point. The Geisler Garfield Bridge is off the master plan of arterial highways. The city of Costa Mesa started that effort in 1991. The primary person who's driven it, and we got to give him, this is the Raja shout out night, Raja Setharaman, I mean, really tireless work. And then when the chips were down, as I mentioned before, Councilmember Bewley came in and gave his own testimony, and he brought some of his constituents there, our constituents. And so it's finally done. And so there's not going to be a bridge. It's just something we don't need to think about anymore, and the state streets are safe from cut-through traffic. So we went to ICSC yesterday and got there on Sunday, came back this morning. So we're a little tired. I want to give you some highlights and show you a very, very brief snippet of the video. So we had a great team there. Cecilia Gallardo-Daly, our acting city manager, was there. Carrie Tai, our director of developmental services, Chris Yeager, Brock Coward, and especially the straw that stirs the drink on that event definitely is Dan Inlos. Our booth, just a couple highlights. Our booth was the envy of every city. Our booth was the very best city by a wide margin. There were many mayors and council members that came and dragged their staff and said, why can't we have a booth like Costa Mesa? So it was impressive. I'm going to show you a little snippet of the video in a minute, but we had a mural by Stacy Moffett that went through the entire city, and also we gave out the best swag, Costa Mesa socks. So they're going to go, everybody's going to get Costa Mesa socks. Everybody in the nation wanted Costa Mesa socks at this thing. But we go there for a reason, by the way. We just don't go there to have a fun time in Vegas. And actually, it's a lot of hard work. We met with some very important constituents. We met with the new owners from Baltimore of SoCo. And we learned about the upgrades that they're bringing to SoCo. And they were very receptive to our input. We had a very meaningful meeting with Olson, a developer that's developed two really nice projects recently in the city of Costa Mesa and is looking to develop more. We met with people that are considering bringing things to Costa Mesa that we've never had. For example, try this one out. How about a dinner theater like the Coach House in Costa Mesa? So when we go there and when we meet with these folks, it's a message to our shopping center partners and constituents that we care about them, but also a message to all the people that might come to Costa Mesa that you will be embraced by our city. We've had Shake Shack, Five Below. We have a lot of people raising canes who never even knew of Costa Mesa until they met us at that booth. So it's really important to do that every year, to keep the consistency. And every year's good. This was the best year. Now I want to roll the Costa Mesa TV did an absolutely incredible video. They took some stock footage from Travel Costa Mesa, and this video, no one could take their eyes off. It's a 12-minute video. I'm not going to show it for 12 minutes. It's a short snippet, but it's going to be available on the snapshot. It's going to be available on the website. I encourage all of you to watch the full 12 minutes. Tony, hit it. It's really good. I'm hungry just watching that. Anyway, so I just want to thank Councilmember Bewley for bringing up Pat Chamberlain. He was a friend of mine too, and definitely deserves to be honored. Among other things, and everything Councilmember Bewley said was perfect. Among other things, he was one of my son's employers during high school. And I just want to tell a little story that illustrates Pat. So we bought Amy a new car, and Nate was not supposed to take this car anywhere. We were on vacation, and he took it to work. And he backed up, and he backed it into a post, and he dented Amy's new car. And so the first thing he did is he ran in and he told Pat Chamberlain, who he was working for. He says, "You're not going to believe what I did. I'm in so much trouble. I shouldn't even be driving my mom's car." And I banged it into a post, and I put a big dent in it. And so Pat says, "Don't worry, let me talk to your mom." And he talked to Amy and said, "Look, I know you're mad at him. I know he's going to get in trouble, but he really feels bad. And anybody who has the courage to confront Amy in that moment is something else, and have the kindness to stick up for my son under those circumstances. He was a great man." So, City Manager report, Cecilia Gallardo-Daly.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'd like to give you an update on where we are in regards to the Trap, Neuter, Return, otherwise known as TNR program for the City of Costa Mesa. The Police Department is actively researching TNR best practices and will be consulting with the Animal Services Committee for additional input. It is anticipated that a recommendation regarding TNR will be presented to the City Council before the end of the year. In addition, we've also received an update from our shelter partners, Priceless Pets, that they've secured a new shelter location at 126 East 16th Street and have entered into a lease agreement. They recently submitted a conditional use permit application, which is presently under review. We estimate that the new shelter could be functional within the next 6 to 9 months, pending approvals and necessary preparations. An operational animal shelter and on-site veterinarian are necessary prerequisites for establishing a TNR program. Currently, the animal shelter is operating out of a temporary location utilizing the former adoption center. Due to the limited space, the current facility cannot accommodate the additional volume that a TNR program would generate. There's no on-site veterinarian available to perform the necessary spay and neuter procedures currently. So we will continue to keep the council and the public informed as this project progresses. I also wanted to make the council aware that May is National Wildfire Awareness and Community Preparedness Month. Here in Costa Mesa, we're committed to keeping our community informed and ready. This month serves as a reminder that preparedness is crucial and is the best defense should a disaster ever strike. I want to thank everyone who attended Love Costa Mesa Day this past Saturday, May 17th. We've heard a lot of praise and thank yous for the success of the event. It was a terrific event, and we enjoyed bringing together people, businesses, churches, schools, nonprofits, and the city to serve our Costa Mesa community. And lastly, tip a cop for Special Olympics. We'd like to invite you all to come and have dinner at the Claim Jumper in South Coast Plaza this Thursday, May 22nd, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., where Costa Mesa police officers will serve as hosts and waiters during dinner service. All tips they receive will be donated to the Special Olympics. Those attending will also have the opportunity to meet athletes from the Special Olympics as well. CMPD and the Plaza officers organizing this Tip a Cop hope you can come and join us for some delicious food, fun, and to support Special Olympics. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is our city attorney report, Ms. Hall-Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to update the council. You had asked for some additional reporting on pending litigation, and I've been working with our risk management and the team that does our claims review and assessment, to prepare a report that is in a format with the right information for you to use. And it appears to me that we are close to it, and I should have that ready for you in the next week or so. So I just wanted to update you on that. And then if I could take a point of personal privilege and brag, just a moment. My son-in-law is in New York right now, rehearsing, as he has been cast in the Addams Family traveling production. They will be at Cerritos June 6th and 7th. So get your tickets now, because they're going to sell out. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, that sounds like fun. Okay, so next up is a consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are to be considered routine and acted upon in one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless the item is pulled by the public, a staff member, or a council member. Madam Clerk, has anything been pulled?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'd like to note a recusal of number 3, the warrant resolutions from Councilmember Gameros, because his wife works at Priceless Pets, and for me, because I got a campaign contribution from Ware Disposal. So with that, we have a motion. Or I can make a motion. Move the consent calendar. Seconded by Chavez. Okay, let's call for the question. A voice vote.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Pettis?
Yes.
Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Bewley?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, excellent. We have 2 public hearing items tonight. And it's pretty good because we have to wait for public hearing items till 7 o'clock, and it's now 7:12, so pretty good. Madam Clerk, could you read the title, please?
Thank you. This is an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, designating local responsibility area fire hazard severity zones in the City of Costa Mesa as identified by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection pursuant to California Government Code Section 51178." Presentation by Mr. Neal, Fire Marshal.
Oh, Chief Stefano, looks like, who has the floor?
Yes.
Who has the floor? It looks like you're.
Take the floor to start. Honorable
Yeah.
Mayor, City Council.
Chief Stefano.
Thank you, Acting City Manager Gallardo Daly, our city staff and community. We are here tonight for the first reading of the ordinance of our fire hazard severity zones here in the city of Costa Mesa. It is a state requirement as identified by the state fire marshal. And we are privileged tonight, I will say, to have our top two individuals. We call them our dynamic duo that will be presenting, our 2 assistant fire chiefs, our Assistant Fire Chief of Operations, Jason Pyle, and our Assistant Fire Chief and Fire Marshal, John Neal, who have an outstanding presentation. I think you'll enjoy it, and then we will follow up with any questions that you might have. And with that, I'll turn it over. The gentleman, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we will present to you the mouthful, the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, designation local responsibility area fire hazard severity zones in the City of Costa Mesa as identified by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection pursuant to California Government Code Section 51178. That's a long title. But it is a public hearing, and we are here. This is part of the state mandates that we're presenting to you as a public hearing. So I'll begin tonight with you with some background information, and then turn it over to Chief Neal for the more detailed analysis, and also as we go through the slides, should you have any questions. I'm not going to read every slide before you, in essence of time, but give you the highlights. What it precipitated this, bringing this to you tonight, is back in 1991, everybody should remember the Oakland Hills fire. That after that fire, AB 337 called for CAL FIRE to evaluate the fire hazard severity zones in the local response area, also known as LRA, to make recommendations where very high hazards existed. And they did that. Then as we fast forward through time and have quite a bit more fires, that resulted in SB 63 in 2021 that included a mandate for CAL FIRE to implement changes to enhance the fire prevention efforts through vegetation management and fire safety building standards due to recent significant wildland fires. That's a big gap between 1991 all the way to 2021. We had a lot of large fires. Notable in there was the Camp Fire, one of the most deadliest in U.S. history, where 85 fatalities, 153,000 plus acres, 18,000 structures. We call it the Camp Fire, but everybody remembers it as the Paradise Fire. Tubbs Fire, which was in Santa Rosa lost 5% of their homes in that fire alone. Thomas Fire back in 2017, which raged through Malibu, and the Woolsey Fire in 2018. What's not noticed on here, but is very relevant to our minds, is the recent fires that we had to begin this year, which was the Eaton Fire and the Palisades Fire. That was after this all came through. So what we're presenting to you tonight is the fire hazard severity zones, and we won't be addressing those fires, but that's what predicated this coming to you tonight. And it's a state requirement, so we're bringing it to you for first reading. I will now turn it over to Chief Neal to walk through the analysis and the maps themselves.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. So you can see in front of you, and as Chief Powell spoke about, in 2003, CAL FIRE notified the local agencies that some of us that had not had previously moderate, high, or very high zones may be receiving them, and that they were updating their fire model to reflect local conditions and incorporate some additional factors due to those recent wildfires that Chief Powell just spoke about. The updated model adjusted the fire intensity scores based on the most extreme fire weather at a given location. So they tried to pinpoint specific to these areas locally rather than a general description based on the topographic or geographic conditions. On March 24th, we received official transmittal of the map, and our maps, the maps in general included moderate, high, and very high zones, as I said. The hazard is based on the physical conditions that create expected fire behavior over a 50-year period without considering short-term modifications. So it's just what's in place as it stands, not accounting for any building modifications, defensible space, or other human-made or caused events that may occur there. Costa Mesa's map only included zones identified as moderate and high. The government code highlights that within 30 days of receiving the map, we must make those maps available for public review and comment. There's no specific definition of what that means. We did work with our IT department to create a GIS storyboard and website that we hosted directly through our fire department link on the city's website. You can see the hyperlink here, and we'll have a little QR code for you at the end if there's anyone viewing here in the chambers or in the public that would like a direct link there. And then on April 15th, we officially posted the map in the city clerk's office. So that met that requirement there of the government code. We also partnered with our emergency preparedness town halls. While the focus was on emergency preparedness, we wanted to also include this map as we just received it in these meetings and highlight what was coming before you at council tonight, just as some community engagement in an additional way. So that occurred at the Senior Center, Estancia High School, and Balearic Community Center. Here you can see a map, and I zoomed out here to give you a little bit of perspective of the county in general and our area. What you see with the dash line, that is what's called State Responsibility Area, or SRA. The red is very high, the orange is high, and the yellow is what's moderate. You can also see where it's solid colors, that means it's local responsibility area, or a city such as ours. Down by Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, you see a lot of red, right? That's very high hazard, which indicates steeper terrain, higher fire load, and in general, a higher fire danger, which will come along with some additional requirements. The blue arrow points to our little island here of Costa Mesa. As we move on, here's a picture of the map on the left-hand side that was transmitted to us, and I blew up a little portion here of our high area and the parcels that are impacted. This is just south of Fairview Park, where Pacific dead ends into Fairview, Canyon hits, you can see Waldorf School, and a little bit of the moderate catches Estancia High School in this area. In the high zone, our preliminary count is that it impacts 40 parcels with 292 structures. One of the parcels is a school, Waldorf School, and one is a place of worship. Other than that, they are all residential parcels that would be impacted by the high zone. Going to the next slide, here's a highlight of our second moderate area. So there was some moderate around that high area as it kind of diffuses out. Here around Talbot South, we have our moderate zone. This appears to impact, in our preliminary count again, 249 parcels, 401 structures, all residential in this area. The moderate zone is just for awareness and knowledge of the adjacent hazards. So currently no code requirements, no defensible space requirements. However, we did want to highlight that our continued partnership with our Public Works Department in coordination with the Fairview Parks Administrator and our biological consultant, we annually conduct proactive brush clearance in the areas of Fairview Park as well as Canyon Park. So on those exterior areas that butt up against the residential, they do conduct clearance, brush clearance to, as an additional factor in our community risk reduction efforts in the area. And as I noted, no additional building or fire code requirements. As we get into the high zone, there are no more requirements at this time for building or fire code. In the high, the defensible space requirements do not apply. Those only apply to very high at this time. And then when we get into really the one factor that we see coming up that's already in legislation is starting July 1st, 2025, the seller of any property in the high zone must provide a natural hazard real estate disclosure notice to the buyer that highlights any home hardening retrofits that have been voluntarily installed. So those retrofits were not required, but they must put that as part of their disclosure in the sale of the property. I think there was some slight confusion in the staff report regarding inspections and who would do that inspection. This would just be part of the normal house inspection that would be conducted as part of any sale of the property that would highlight these factors that are there. It would not be an inspection by the fire department. What you see in the government code refers to the defensible space inspections that would be required in a very high area. So just wanted to highlight that. Future code considerations. So we regularly participate with the State Fire Marshal's WUI Code Work Group. I meet with them monthly, as well as the CAL FIRE Fire Marshal section. And just last week, I was speaking with the State Fire Marshal Dan Berlant regarding the issues that are facing our community and what's coming in the code adoption process to try to gain some clarity as they get through the state's adoption of the fire code in July. So we'll be adopting our Costa Mesa amendments to that code in November, December, but we really want to be ahead of the game as it comes to the fire code changes that are being proposed. The direction to Chief Berlant at this time is to include some additional building modifications in the high. So they're working through that process as we get to July. And then we will also continue to monitor any of the impacts, like I said, to defensible space and some of those proactive requirements for home hardening. Here we pulled up a chart. This was provided by CAL FIRE, and it really highlights, again, the SRA is the state responsibility area. These are the requirements that are already in the code as of today. In the left-hand column, you can see there's quite a bit more that the state is tasked with enforcing on state property. In the LRA, in the very high, Newport Beach, Laguna, as we spoke about, some of the North County cities, they have to also do those higher level defensible space, subdivision review, CEQA, some safety element amendments. And then you can see for the high and moderate, as we adopt this tonight, it's just that hazard disclosure, the adoption process that we're going through here by ordinance. And then the 7A reference here is just, again, I think placed by the State Fire Marshal as a placeholder with what they've been tasked with in the legislation. So currently 7A would not apply to the high as our code is adopted today. Moving on, we are here in front of you. We have 120 days according to the government code to adopt the maps that have been provided to us. We may not decrease the level of the hazard on the maps or the area. There is an opportunity to increase. However, that would be if we had a very high zone or if we wanted to declare a zone as very high due to that it was necessary for effective fire protection within the area. However, we are not recommending an increase in the hazard level or area that the maps have been provided by CAL FIRE as of today. So with that, our recommendation is that the City Council introduce for first reading an ordinance designating moderate and high local responsibility area fire hazard severity zones by map within the jurisdiction of the City of Costa Mesa. And we have questions, and then here's the QR code if there's anyone in the audience who would like to pull up our storyboard city website that we made through ArcGIS, or they can find the link again on our website. We also wanted to note that following the adoption, we will continue with the outreach. You know, we just did some preliminary outreach. Once we get the maps in place, we will do targeted campaigns and mailers to make sure that the public will have additional information as far as any requirements. And as we go through the code adoption process towards the end of the year, again, that continued outreach once we have a better idea of what factors may be mandated or required by code minimum requirements when we get there. So that is our presentation now, but we are available for questions.
Councilmember Marr.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, that last part you touched on, I was going to ask about what our outreach plan was. It does strike me the supplemental document that lists the low-cost retrofits is really helpful. I just Googled some of those links already. Certainly something that I think will be important to educate folks on who fall within these areas, but also more generally. You know, I know we did the community emergency preparedness meetings, but you know, questions about metal roofs and other things are some of what we got after the fires most recently. I have a question about clearing in Fairview. I know we say we're doing it in coordination with the Fairview Park Administrator, but now that fire season is all year long, this probably isn't a question for you. I don't understand how and when we can clear in Fairview Park. Maybe this is a question for when we bring back the Fairview Park master plan, but I don't know when when it's okay seasonally, how close to a vernal pool we can clear, what we can clear. Considering that is where our hazard is in the city, I think I'd like a lot more clarity. You have your mic on. I don't know.
Mayor, if I can quickly attempt to answer that, but maybe can provide more information later. But our clearance is in the perimeters of the Fairview Park, just the north boundary by the homes and on the south boundary. That's our primary areas, and we do that before the July 4th holiday. That's our target. Before that, so we have a biological consultant that'll do a nest survey, ensure that there is nothing that prevents us from accessing those areas, and we make those clearances at that time.
Okay. Maybe when we talk about Fairview Park, it would be helpful for that to be labeled on a map somewhere, because that feels like it's close to a vernal pool that might have had DG poured in it. So anyway, I'm also curious about once these maps come out and there's an obligation from the seller to start disclosing what changes they might have made. Given the insurance crunch across California, will that effectively make it more difficult for these people to sell their homes? And if so, are there any interventions that you've seen cities taking? It's okay if you want to punt that one, but.
Yeah, we can't speak to the impacts of insurance. What our understanding in working with the State Fire Marshal's Office and them hosting the insurance community and some of the forums that we've had is that the insurance companies use their own risk models. And so risk is different than hazard. The hazard is what exists there. The risk is the probability of something occurring.
Right.
And so they have their own models. So they've said that the map itself does not change whether they can or cannot get insurance. They're already calculating that in with all of their models that they have and the history and fire history of what's occurring in the area. And so that's what we've been told. Obviously we can't speak to that. The State Fire Marshal doesn't speak to what the insurance companies are going to do because we just can't anticipate that. But these home hardening efforts, what we've seen and heard from them is that they're starting to proactively reach out to property owners rather than dropping insurance or doing things and saying, if you do these home hardening upgrades, you'll either have reductions in your insurance or less probability of being dropped or having changes in rates as you move forward. Mm-hmm. And so they're actually working and understanding how the fire science behind this is mitigating that risk. And obviously that's different than hazard, right? That's just occurring in that area. So they're managing it through that process as we move forward.
That's a really great answer. Thank you for that. I definitely think it's something that we need to track. It's been not something you're responsible for, but it's been a huge concern for a lot of communities that are struggling to obtain any type of fire insurance or any type of home insurance now. And I think that will be something we need to stay on top of now that we have some of these communities in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I don't see anybody. Oh, Councilmember Reynolds, you had some questions.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to go back to, let me go online here. Just really want to understand our current practices on the vegetation management at Fairview Park, Canyon Park, and then what you can tell me about what's happening at Talbert and the adjacent property now referred to as Randall Preserve. So from the staff report, I'm understanding that at Canyon Park and Fairview Park, I agree with Councilmember Mar's request on a map just to see where that mowing happens. But I'm understanding it happens once a year before the July 4th holiday is the target. And then an additional management activity may happen if needed. Is that right? And then how do we determine the if needed piece?
So Councilmember Reynolds is Raja Sethuraman. Yeah, that's correct. The if needed it depends again on the growth of the vegetation and where it's adjacent to. So sometimes we go adjacent to the train station area if there is significant growth. Again, a lot of the natural areas are not cleaned out. I mean, those are, we just focus our attention on adjacent to create the buffer between the homes and the park in that areas on both north and south side.
Okay. And then can you tell me, again, I understand it's not our jurisdiction, but it certainly affects our residents. It's the same question applied to Talbert and the Randall Preserve property. Do we know what the management strategies are there? Are we involved in them?
So, Councilmember Mar, it's Fire Marshal Neal here. Chief Pyle and I actually...
This is Councilmember Reynolds.
Sorry, Councilmember Reynolds. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Chief Pyle and I actually walked Randall Preserve with some of the tribal representatives, as well as Newport Beach Fire and Orange County Fire, I believe a month or two ago, just to preliminary look at some areas for tribal burns and some natural vegetation management practices that could occur in the area. So we are partnering and continue to cooperate with them as far as that. I'm not aware of any other brush management practices similar to what we have in the area. However, we will definitely follow up with them and get back to you.
Okay, so right now, no active ongoing brush management as far as we're aware, but we're engaged in the discussions of what that would be or could be going forward. Is that a fair takeaway?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And did that apply to Talbert too, or what's the situation at Talbert?
Yes, so we have a history of working through Talbert with the Orange County Parks and their brush management efforts that they take in the area as well. They have similar concerns of balancing the natural habitat and any protected species in what they do with brush clearance. So we usually look at areas that we maintain as far as fire access down there and different paths, but not into particular adjacent properties or anything that's occurring outside of those fire response areas.
Okay. I appreciate the numbers. I know we've talked about the granularity of the map, and it's a little bit hard to see, are you in or are you out? I appreciate you sharing the numbers in terms of parcels and types of structures included in the moderate and high zones. Has there been any direct outreach to those properties so that they're aware that this process is happening?
No, we've done no direct outreach. We wanted to get through the adoption process and memorialize the maps before we would reach out and, warn them of a potential map or change that may not have been memorialized.
Okay, so is that something that's already on your list to do?
Yes.
Like a mailer directly to those properties? Okay. Good. Yeah, I want to congratulate you on the website. I think that was a really helpful resource. I got a lot of my questions answered by going to that website. I have a few recommendations to make things a little bit easier to find, but I think it'd be great to especially point the residents that are in those zones or near those zones to the website for that information. Thank you.
Okay, let's open it up to public comment. I don't see anybody in the chambers. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First speaker is phone number ending in 714.
714, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the report from the fire department, but my question is this. I wish you would have had the map available so we could have had your presentation with some of the more clear maps in view, and especially the high and the moderate in the west side zone, which are so historically high fireworks usage. I'm wondering, with insurance and whatnot, does our city, since our city is one of the very few cities that does allow fireworks, does that endanger any of our residents as far as increased insurance because of the fire risk? And does the city have any liability if in fact someone does have a fire because they've approved the fireworks? And I'd also like to know that in these high and very high moderate areas, are you going to have extra patrol during 4th of July? Because as I said earlier, the west side is historically a very active area in fireworks. Do you have any plans for that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes, Jim Erickson, please.
Jim, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking my comments. And thank you to CAL FIRE for putting out this comprehensive map. You can tell they did their homework, and the reason you can tell that is by what they didn't designate as an are of high concern. When you look carefully at it, you see that the strip of land in the northwest of the park, as well as the entire east side of Fairview Park, are not included as high nor moderate fire severity areas. And it's perhaps because they know that we regularly mow those areas regularly in order that sparks from model trains don't spark a damaging fire, and in order that the folks living in the bird streets, both upper and lower, don't suffer an increased risk of life or loss of property should a fire erupt. And that's all well and good, but it does call to question why the high fire severity area includes houses on the south and west side of the park. It seems unfortunate that we couldn't do a better job of mowing that side of the park to mitigate fire risk. And I would ask clarity from CAL FIRE and also from the Costa Mesa fire officials if that's indeed why that western side of the park remains a high and moderate fire risk vis-a-vis the east side. So thank you for taking my comments. I would just would ask that that be followed up upon and that the people living in those areas be informed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
No further speakers, Mr.
Close public comment. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, you can go ahead and make the motion, Councilmember.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll move staff recommendation that CMFR introduce for first reading this item. And want to add direction that we send letters to all properties in the moderate and high zones notifying of this adoption and providing information on current implications, information about the website for more information, and point them to the voluntary home hardening recommendations.
I'll second that.
Yeah, seconded by Councilmember Chavez. Mayor Pro Tem Chavez. Councilmember, do you have anything you want to say in support of your motion?
No, it's I think unfortunate that we have elevated fire activity. That is the that is the way of the world right now. I just want to make sure that we are diligent, proactive, and timely in getting this information out to the residents who are most impacted, give them time to give feedback, and really target outreach in that particular area, which all sits in District 5. So I appreciate you letting me make the motion.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Pro Tem?
None.
Okay, let's call for the question. A voice vote, sorry.
Councilmember Gameros? Yes. Councilmember Bewley?
Yes.
Councilmember Pettis?
Yes.
Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next up is public hearing number 2. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Public hearing for 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan, including fiscal year 2025 to 2026 funding priorities for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships Program, amended Citizen Participation Plan, and 2025 to 2029 Orange County Regional Assessment of Fair Housing. Presentation by Ms. Daly, Grant Administrator.
Ms. Daly, you have the floor.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name's Mikkel Daly. I'm the grant administrator here at the City of Costa Mesa, and I'm going to be presenting the 5-year consolidated plan from 2025 through 2029 and the 1-year annual action plan from 2025-2026. Costa Mesa is a recipient of 2 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development grant program funds. One is the Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, and then the Home Investment Partnership Grant, also known as HOME. CDBG funds are used to achieve one of 3 national objectives, in elimination of slums or blight, to meet an urgent need, or to benefit low and moderate income persons. The City of Costa Mesa meets the national objective by benefiting low and moderate income persons with this funding. Home funds create affordable housing for low and very low income households. That's what those funds are used for. And the 2 HUD programs annually provide approximately $1.3 million to assist low income Costa Mesa residents. And so the question might be, what is a low income Costa Mesa resident? These income limits come from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. These are the 2025 Orange County income limits. And somebody who is considered low income would be at the 80% level. So it's that very last row. So a family of 4 making $135,350 per the household would be eligible for a CDBG or a home funded program. There are different levels, like it shows the second to last row. It says 60%. Our tenant-based rental assistance program actually uses 60% as the guideline, so the cap would be a little bit lower for a family of 4 at $101,520. So the consolidated plan is a 5-year strategic planning document required by HUD for the city to receive CDBG and home funding. It includes an executive summary, housing needs assessment, housing market analysis, strategic plan, and annual action plan. HUD requires that the city have a citizen participation plan, which outlines the public participation requirements for the consolidated planning process. The citizen participation plan was last revised in 2020 to include regulatory waivers in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been reviewed and updated in accordance with HUD regulations and reformatted for easier readability. So there have been no substantive changes to the citizen participation plan, and it's currently posted on the city website. The Citizen Participation Plan provides the requirements of public participation process, including the 30-day comment period that was required for the consolidated plan to be reviewed prior to this public hearing. As mentioned on the previous slide, HUD requires a public participation in the development of a consolidated plan. And this slide details the notices regarding the community meetings, the dates of the community meetings, and the availability of a survey to receive public input. If you look at attachment 3 on the agenda, it includes the appendices of the consolidated plan, where in Appendix A, you can find a summary of public outreach, community meeting attendance, copies of snapshots, flyers, pictures, survey responses, and comments received so far on the consolidated plan. If you want to just look at the slide, you can see that our process started back in September with staff attending the Health Fair Expo at the Senior Center and making the survey available with a QR code. We had 3 public meetings in October. 2 were specifically for the public. 1 was for the public, but advertised to stakeholders, which are nonprofit organizations that provide low-income residents in the city with public services. And then we had the Housing and Public Service Committee public meeting on March 5th. That's where nonprofit organizations that are applying for CDBG funds for public services come and make their presentations to the committee, where the committee develops recommendations for the City Council, and then we bring those recommendations as part of the consolidated plan to the public hearing, which is tonight. So if you take a look at the picture on page 4 of the agenda report, it shows how the department collected information from residents on the priority needs for services and infrastructure in the city. We had 2 big poster boards with the different categories eligible for funding, with home and eligible for CDBG and home funding. And we also had a copy of the city map and broken into districts. So within the appendix of the consolidated plan, so it's page 3 of the appendix, which is attachment 3 to the agenda report. It shows the number of residents that participated in these meetings by district. As far as what is on the slide, so this is kind of a summary of the community meetings. These are the different categories that you can provide CDBG or home funding in. And also the stakeholder meeting, which was the organizations that provide services to low-income residents in the city. Both identified affordable housing development as the highest among the funding priorities. So within the consolidated plan, the housing needs assessment identified that housing cost burden is the #1 housing problem in Costa Mesa. The needs assessment identifies that there are 4 types of housing problems four types of housing problems that they identify: cost burden, overcrowding, lack of complete kitchen or plumbing facilities, and 0 or negative income. So since cost burden was #1, there are 2 graphs here on the slide, and you can see that seniors or elderly homeowners are more likely to have severe housing cost burden. That means they're spending more than 50% of their income on their housing costs. And then also in the other graph, you can see renters versus owners. Renters are more cost burdened than owners, and especially at the lower income levels. Cost burden, so I explained severe housing cost burden was over 50% of your income for housing costs. Just cost burden is over 30%. This slide shows that we have more residents than units available for low-income residents in the city. This does not account for whether or not households are living in units that correspond to their income. It includes renters and owners. And the information for this figure comes from Table 6 on page 25 in the comp plan and Table 22 on page 55. So the second to the last section of the consolidated plan is the strategic plan, and this outlines the City of Costa Mesa's course of action to meet priority housing and community development needs. The 5-year goals of the consolidated plan are listed in the strategic plan. They're also on this slide. So housing preservation, infrastructure and facility improvements, homeless continuum of care, public social services, and program administration. And the way we meet these goals is by using the funds to fund certain programs that help us achieve what the goal is. So, for example, under housing preservation, we have a housing rehabilitation program to help meet our goal of housing preservation. The last section of the consolidated plan is the annual action plan. So the consolidated plan is a 5-year plan. Every year we bring a 1-year annual action plan to council. So the first year of the consolidated plan is our first annual action plan for this 5-year period. It's a fiscal year 2025 through 2026, so it goes from July 1st through June 30th. And these bullets identify the different programs that we fund with CDBG funds. For 25-26, our CDBG allocation was announced by HUD on May 14th. It's going to be $907,261. We have previous year's unused funds for $172,000 for total anticipated resources of just over $1 million to fund all of these programs. I wanted to just note under housing rehabilitation and administration and grant program, that very first bullet, right now we use the funds for housing rehabilitation administration, but we're going to add some money in there for grants with CDBG funds, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. So this is the detail of how we're going to allocate those funds for CDBG. So we have public service grants. We have $136,089 available. That's the maximum we're allowed to allocate to public services of the annual allocation. We have $251,000 plus funds for the Wilson Street West Side Neighborhood Improvement Project. Code enforcement is $385,000. That funds two full-time code enforcement officers and 1 part-time code enforcement officers who only provide code enforcement in CDBG eligible areas. A CDBG eligible area is identified on the map that's inside the consolidated plan. I believe it's in the appendix B. For housing rehab administration, so once again, I mentioned that we have a rehabilitation program. So program delivery costs are treated differently by CDBG and home funds. CDBG funds are more flexible, so we can use CDBG funds to pay for staff to do eligibility reviews, property inspections, loan processing services, and also pay for any of these for grants that don't go through. So if somebody starts the application process and doesn't finish it for whatever reason, we're not able to charge that to home funds. They won't do that. So we use housing rehab administration to pay for those kind of costs for our housing rehab program. New for this year, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the housing rehab grants. So we're going to put $75,000 of CDBG funds for grants. We're going to add it to the home funded rehabilitation program because, as I said, CDBG funds are more flexible and we will be able to help more people. As identified in the housing market needs assessment, low-income senior homeowners are the largest group with a severe housing cost burden, so this will help them do the necessary rehabilitation to their properties. For administration, the maximum we're allowed to allocate is 20%. So at just over $181,000, we have that for administration, and that includes $20,000 for fair housing services. Fair housing services are required by HUD for the city to receive the funds. So HUD gives you the option to either pay for fair housing services through administration or public service grants. We prefer to pay them out of administration so that we have additional funds in the public service grants budget for the nonprofit organizations providing services in our city. So public service grants are for city or nonprofit programs that provide community services to city residents. Recommendations for public service grants are decided by the city's Housing and Public Service Grants Committee. An application for CDBG public service grants was released in January 2025 and closed on February 14th, 2025. On March 5th, 2025, the Housing and Public Service Grants Committee heard presentations from grant applicants and developed public service grant funding recommendations for City Council's consideration, which are reflected on this slide. Just to note, these are all of the nonprofit organizations that we are recommending for funding, but public service funds also fund $30,000 toward the case manager at the senior center that provides public services to the seniors that go to the senior center. If you want more detail on the public service grant recommendations, attachment 4 to the agenda report has some more information. And also, Andrea Schmidt is a representative from the Housing and Public Service Grant Committee. She is here tonight, and if you have any questions after the presentation, she can provide details on how the committee came up with these recommendations. So lastly, for the annual action plan is the home funds. So the home allocation for this year is going to be, well, for 25-26, it's going to be $378,720. We have identified previous year unused funds of almost $1.7 million, and there's a reason for that. Home program income of $50,000 is, that's for lien and loan repayment. That's how we get program income. So the total anticipated resources is just over $2 million. So the main reason why we identified previous year's unused funds is for the affordable rental housing projects. So we don't have an affordable rental housing project in every single annual action plan. The last time we had one, it was in fiscal year 22-23, and the funds went toward the Motel 6 conversion project. So that's a little explanation on that, and I'll say more about that on this next slide. So once again, I did already mention the Housing Rehabilitation Program. We've had this program for many years. It's funded by home funds for $319,323. So we provide grants and loans up to $50,000. The grants are, I believe they're $20,000 for single-family residents, and I think it's $15,000 or $18,000 for mobile homes. I have to double check. We are adding $75,000 in CDBG funds to this housing rehabilitation program so that anybody who does not qualify for a home rehabilitation grant, then they have another option, because we've run into some difficulties with people who are not in mobile homes needing rehabilitation assistance and not being eligible because of the stringent requirements that home has. Our tenant-based rental assistance program, previously funded for $150,000. We just recently increased it to $200,000 for the current year. We're going to keep that at $200,000 to try to help 15 households per year with home funding for rental assistance. For affordable housing, it says CHODO is how we pronounce it. It's a community housing development organization. And so 15% of the annual allocation set aside, HUD requires us to set aside 15% for a possible nonprofit developer, which is considered a CHODO. And so we keep these funds set aside until an appropriate eligible affordable housing development project comes up, and then we can apply those funds to them. The last time we applied Chodo funds was to Mercy House for the Motel 6 conversion project. And so the affordable housing project is actually going to be an RFP or an RFQ, so a request for proposal or a request for qualifications of $1.5 million. And we're hoping to identify a project that would be eligible for home funding. Again, there's a lot of requirements for home funding, but we will hopefully come back with some responses to use these funds for another project in the city. And administration for home is limited to 10% of the annual allocation, so it is $37,872. Before I read the last slide for recommendations, I just want to note, because it wasn't on a previous slide, as a recipient of CDBG funds, the city is required to comply with the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which prohibits discrimination in housing-related transactions. The city participated with all 34 Orange County cities, with Santa Ana as the lead, and hired a consulting firm to complete the regional fair housing assessment. There is no slide for the assessment, but an executive summary and also the section that talks about the city of Costa Mesa is included in the appendices of the consolidated plan. It's attachment 3 to the agenda report. The entire assessment is posted on the city website, and the executive summary, again, is in the appendix of the consolidated plan. Specifics to Costa Mesa are listed in Appendix F, pages F8. I think it's F8 and F9. And the meaningful actions that we identify that the city is taking toward eliminating impediments to fair housing are also listed in the city's housing element. That's where the consultant got most of the information. So they're pretty much the same. The actions that the city is taking are the same actions that we have listed in our housing element. And so, with that, staff recommends that the City Council approve the recommended allocation for the fiscal year 25-26 Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnerships Grant, adopt a resolution to approve the 25 through 29 Consolidated Plan, including the 25-26 Annual Action Plan and amended Citizen Participation Plan. Also approve the 25 through 29 Orange County Regional Assessment of Fair Housing. Authorize the city manager or the city manager's designee to submit the consolidated plan and action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and designate the city manager or city manager's designee as the official representative of the city to administer the programs and execute and submit all required agreements, certifications, and documents required by HUD, and execute all agreements and sub-recipient agreements for the use of funds approved in the 25-26 Annual Action Plan. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for council members? Councilmember Bewley.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the informative report. I'm just curious on the 1.5 million unused funds for housing rehab grants. How many years of accrual has it taken us to get to that number? Because it looks like unused funds from last year were 172,000.
No, the 172 is CDBG funds, and the 1.5 that you're talking about is actually home funds. And the home funds right now, so home funds, you have 8 years to use them from the time of allocation. So for 2025, we can still be spending 2017 up until September of this year. So what happens is we get the allocation, we come to City Council with an annual action plan, and we identify how we're going to use the funds. However, if we receive program income, if we receive loan paybacks during that time, then we have to use that money before we can use our current year allocation. And so what happened was back in 2018, we had a program income receipt of 1.8 million for the St. John's Manor. So when we did that, we had to spend that program income before we could go back to use the allocations. So this money is actually made up of entitlement money back from 2018.
And are these funds typically, when we talk about affordable housing, it's typically multi-unit, low-income housing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And on the public service applications, I see the recommendations is on the list here, or we did receive a report from Ms. Schmidt from the committee.
Yes.
Recommendation. Is this the what was the total number of applicants? Because it looks like what we see here are the ones that are being recommended to go forward. What kind of volume of applications come in for this versus the ones that
We received 6 eligible, and we're recommending 5.
Okay, so between the two, I've seen the universe of the applicants that were considered. Okay, all right, that's all my questions. Thanks.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions. Ms. Daly, thank you for your report and answering some of my earlier questions. I want to confirm, because I had a question about the Housing Rehabilitation Administration dollar amount. So that was the $50K dollar amount in the CDBG bucket is to service the $320K grant amount in the home bucket plus an additional 75 from CDBG. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then my second question is thinking about future years. I recall a few months ago when we started this year's budget cycle, it sounded like there was, and this represents kind of a commitment, hopefully a guarantee that these federal funds are locked in for the 25-26 program year, or I'm sorry, budget year. What do we know about 26-27 and going forward? Do you have any understanding or commitments about this funding being available in future years?
I can tell you what I know. I can't predict the future, but
Sure.
Home was created in 1990, and since the early 2000s has been proposed for elimination several times, but has not been eliminated. CDBG has been established since 1974. It has strong bipartisan support in Congress and has prevailed anytime that it has been requested to be eliminated. Trump actually asked for elimination in 2018, 19, 20, and 21, and it was never eliminated. George Bush did the same thing, George W. Bush. Obama asked for cuts to the program that didn't happen. So it just has really strong support, so I don't really see that the funding is going to be discontinued, but it's possible.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sure you're watching closely the budget discussions at the federal level this year. If you can, let us know as soon as possible if that turns south, because it looks like there's at least a couple staff salaries tied to these funds. So I think we'd want to know as soon as possible if we can't rely on this in future years. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
To open it up to the public.
Hi, Council. Good evening. My name is Andrea Schmidt. I'm here on behalf of the Housing and Public Service Grants Committee. We met in March to hear from the applicants, and I sent out a report just kind of outlining our recommendations. So for the sake of time, I'll just kind of briefly go through them. But a couple of things that I wanted to just call out. Our committee evaluated the applicants with a revised scoring model this year with the help of Ms. Daly. Our committee looked at how it was being scored in past years, and we wanted to make sure that as we're scoring, it's really reflective of all things that we're considering with the applicants as well as the city's priorities. So the scoring, we really does reflect how we based our recommendations as well. So a couple of things to call out. Some of the highest scored organizations, Families Forward and Human Options, those are the two that we're recommending the highest amount. When we were deliberating back in March, we were unsure of what the total funding amount would be, so we were going loosely based off of $100,000 with the agreement that if it was higher, we would adjust equally amongst all of the recommended funding recipients. So that's why you see these kind of like wonky numbers of 21,000 something something. So for Families Forward, an affordable housing support organization, we're recommending $26,522, just short of the requested $30,000. This funding supports some staff salaries as well as 50 residents, with 33 of those being in Costa Mesa. So that kind of meets that housing support goal. We're also recommending $26,522 for Human Options, which provides second step transitional housing and support programs for survivors of domestic violence. This funding would support the salaries for case manager and a supervisor to serve 70 residents total, with 58 of those being in Costa Mesa. Moving to the other recommendations, we are recommending for Trellis International Labors of Love program, $15,913. They organize manual labor projects. I know the council's very familiar with their work. They requested the $30,000 in an estimate to support 30 homes. So we did have to make some difficult recommendations and decisions just to make sure that we're stretching the limited funds as far as possible for the biggest impact. So we're recommending $15,913, and hopefully that can still support upwards of 15 seniors in the community. So next up, we had Project Hope Alliance. That's an organization that supports case management for homeless Costa Mesa students. Their funds provide one-on-one case management and other school-related support.
That's it. We got it, though. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to the committee. Anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
Yes, resilience, please.
Resilience, you have the floor.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Roberto with Resilience Orange County. I just want to thank staff for their work in putting this staff report together. I really value the City Council, supporting the efforts of CDBG. Funding for low-income community members. As you know, we work with the Latino community here in Costa Mesa. I know it's tied to both tenancy and home affordability, home ownership. And what I wanted to talk about is, like, for us to not forget about tenants in this report, and the impact that CDBG funds can have in having tenants be housed. There's different policies, obviously, that you can pass that support tenants that go with this funding. But one that the city has previously passed was legal defense funding for no-fault evictions. That's something that the city has previously invested in during the TPO ordinance that was passed a few years back. So I wanted to highlight that to make sure that, we continue to invest in legal services. Currently, the legal service provider, the legal service community is very small here. I appreciate everyone in their efforts. But with our current legal service provider, they're unable to support undocumented residents in the city of Costa Mesa. So I'm hoping the city can use funding to help supplement that need. Again, these are legal services for low-income residents, particularly for housing and eviction. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on Zoom?
Mr. Mayor.
Close public comment. We got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. I want to move staff recommendation.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mar. Okay, do you have anything to say in support of your motion, Mayor Pro Tem?
Real brief. Thank you so much for the good breakdown of how all this funding comes in. And more importantly, thank you for answering the question we're all thinking about, which is this funding going to be taken away from us in the national budget discussions? It's so critical that we fund these projects. And I want to thank the committee as well for their good recommendations and the hard work they did. These are dollars we pay to the federal government. These are dollars we're spending to DC. So it's good to have them come back to us, and it's good to have a committee that helps us decide what local nonprofits as a community should get funding. And overall, I'm happy with the staff recommendation. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Marr?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Daly, for all the hard work on that. Also, thank you to the Public Service Grant Committee and Ms. Schmidt for the contribution and the supplemental memo. So agree with everything that Mayor Pro Tem just shared.
All right, good. Yeah, I agree. I echo. Thank you to the committee. Thank you very much. And thank you to Ms. Daly. And most of all, thank you to all the nonprofits who do such good work. Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds, please.
Oh, you wish to speak about the motion, Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes, I wanted to see if the maker of the motion would consider adding direction to staff to examine opportunities to expand our tenant legal support services for all residents of Costa Mesa.
That's fine. I'll add that.
Second?
Did you want to say anything more about that? I'll second for discussion, but was there something specific you were thinking of?
Yeah, I'm responding to, I think it was the last public comment related to the tenant-based legal services that we provided. I can't remember which year, a couple of years ago. The motion I'm suggesting, or the addition I'm suggesting, is to ask staff to examine kind of what we do have and what is and isn't currently permitted there. I just don't remember where we are. So I'm asking us to look into that and look into what options they could bring back to us if needed, to make sure that that support, that legal support that we already have, serves both documented and undocumented residents in Costa Mesa.
Got it. Okay. Ms. Daly, are you clear on that? On the addition?
Are you asking me to look into funding for that? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure. So
It's, yeah, I didn't specifically say funding because I'm not sure kind of what the current, I guess the question is, what is the current status and what options are there if needed to expand existing services to serve all Costa Mesa residents?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think we could work with staff. The city attorney's office could work with staff to make that determination and get you that information.
okay, and so we're still waiting. Councilmember Marr, are you?
I seconded it.
Seconded it? Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say? Okay, let's call for the question. Oh, by voice vote.
Councilmember Bewley? Yes. Councilmember Pettis? Yes. Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, good job. So then we have our new business item number 1. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
Legislative update and approval of a legislative platform and legislative matrix. Presentation by Mr. Barkman, Government Affairs Manager.
All right, Mr. Barkman, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. That was good timing. I appreciate Ms. Daly teeing that up for us. Elisa and Corey here from Townsend Public Affairs were planning to speak to the issue of CDBG and home funds and federal issues. So this is, I wish I could say we planned this. But Elisa here will take the lead on the presentation with Townsend Public Affairs. Corey's been with the firm many years, and I know worked with the city. Lisa joined the firm shortly after I joined the city, so we've been working together now for the last year. So I'll let them start, and then I'll move into the platform and bill matrix.
Thank you, Jay. I will actually kick
Hold on. Something. There you go.
Thank you, Jay. I will actually start our presentation. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Corey Talkanen with Townsend Public Affairs. And we're here, as Jay mentioned, to give it a state and federal legislative update. I wanted to start with a little quick history of our firm. I know we may be new to some of you. So just starting with some background, we were founded in 1998 by our president, and we are a state and federal advocacy and funding advocacy and grant writing firm. We've been working with the city of Costa Mesa in that capacity for the last 9 years, and we have the reputation back in Washington, D.C. and in Sacramento as the go-to firm serving California public agencies. In our capacity working with the city over the last 9 years, if we could go to the next slide, we've been really proud to work with your city staff as well as your state legislators to secure over $29 million in funding. That's for a range of projects. There have been quite a few complete streets projects. There have been quite a few projects with your fire department securing equipment and funding for the fire team, safe routes to school projects, and a number of parks projects where we've worked very closely with Assemblymember Cotty Petrie Norris and then Senator Dave Min, who have been great champions for the city through the state budget process. With that, I'm going to have Elisa start with the state update, and then you'll hear back from me on the federal side of things.
Thank you, Corey. As was mentioned, my name is Elisa Arcidiacono, and I have the honor of serving as your lobbyist up in Sacramento. So really just want to start in giving you a lay of the land with where things stand as it relates to the state agenda this year. We have just passed earlier this month the deadline for policy committees for all bills to be heard in their house of origin. We have just passed last week the May revised deadline, so the governor released his May revision to his January proposed budget, and we'll get into a little bit more details on that in a couple of slides. We are now coming up on the fiscal committee deadline this Friday, and at that point, all bills that remain alive will move to the floor of their respective houses of origin. We then have our first House deadline where bills need to switch houses that first week of June. All bills will need to be voted on by June the 6th in order to remain alive and switch into their second House for additional vetting. And then we've got the budgetary deadline on June the 15th, where the governor and the legislature will have to have sorted out how they want to spend dollars this year. As many of you know, there will likely be some budget trailer bills and budget bill juniors to follow, but that'll give us the initial framework of what the budget will look like this year. So the governor has released his May revision as of last week. He intends to deliver a $321.9 billion budget, and that unfortunately is going to include $12 billion in deficit. So we are going to be pulling about $7 billion from our rainy day fund. We currently have $38 billion sitting in that account, and we will also be using some other reserves to backfill $15.7 billion in total reserves. And so now we are entering into the last month of negotiations between the governor and the legislature to sort out that spending plan. Next slide, please. Just wanted to highlight a couple of special session budget items that have already been acted on this year. Following the LA wildfire disasters, the legislature and the governor allocated $2.5 billion to go toward recovery in that region. And on the onset of the federal administration transition, the governor allocated $25 million to go to the Attorney General for any litigation that the state is anticipating in terms of suing the federal government. Next slide. So we are seeing that our expenses are certainly outweighing our revenues, and that is for a couple of different reasons. So we have seen some significant changes following the federal tariffs that were proposed that led to some significant stock market volatility, which ultimately led to a reduction in capital gains to the tune of $16 billion. So we are down $16 billion in revenues. and we are seeing a significant increase in expenses, most notably the $2.5 billion that went toward wildfire recovery, as well as overcommitments on Medi-Cal spending. So we have seen some escalating healthcare costs that are exacerbating our budgetary challenges. We have overspent on Medi-Cal by about $6 billion, and that is as a result of expanding eligibility for folks that are able to sign up under Medi-Cal. So the governor has proposed a couple of different changes to how we move forward in these processes, ideally bringing down some of that overspending. So first, he's going to freeze new enrollment for our undocumented adult community members. And second, he is going to implement a $100 monthly premium for existing undocumented enrollees. So kind of to recap where we stand with the state budget, coming out of the May revision, we are seeing a significant deficit. Part of that is in relation to the fiscal dynamics in DC and that uncertainty that we're seeing just about every day. We are also overspending on some key programs, and the stock market spiraling could potentially not only impact this budget year, but also future budget years. So ultimately, we are seeing a limited capacity for new spending and potentially a multi-year tens of billions of dollar deficit that we will have to sort out over the next few years. Next slide, please. I want to highlight a few key legislative issues being discussed in Sacramento this year, starting with Proposition 36 implementation. As you all well know, that proposition passed by an overwhelming majority statewide, but it did not have a dollar amount attached to it. As of the May revision, the governor is not allocating any funds toward implementation, and the Department of Finance is maintaining that the state is not required to fund county issues. We have had ongoing conversations, special hearings on this issue. We are seeing that folks over from probation are anticipating a need of just under $50 million in order to do their duties in implementing Prop 36. We're seeing a $25 million bare minimum needed in ongoing costs for behavioral health systems, and LA County in particular is stating that they're going to need about $200 million just for increases in behavioral health professionals needing to be hired in order to facilitate some of this diversion work. Moving on to cap and trade reauthorization. That was a conversation that was intended to take place next year. Have started conversations this year, but the plan was intended to come together the second year of this session. As of the May revision, the governor has really inserted this as a focal point in budget negotiations. We have seen revenue being brought in to the tune of $33 billion since its implementation in 2013. And so the conversation right now is to extend beyond the existing 2030 deadline out to 2045. So those will be ongoing conversations over the next few weeks as we come up on that budget signing deadline. We are also seeing a significant number of bills being introduced in the housing space. They are constantly moving the ball as it relates to housing element compliance, how we interact with RHNA and what is expected of local governments. And so we are continuing to engage with the League of California Cities on these issues. I know that we talked a little bit earlier about property insurance availability and affordability. Your city fire marshal hit the nail on the head that there is a distinction between fire hazard and fire risk. The insurance companies are overseeing and really looking for what that fire risk is, but they have historically looked at not on a property by property basis, but more on a regional basis. So there is lots of conversation from the insurance commissioner as well as bills being introduced by the legislature that would ideally tie the risk assessments to some of those home hardening efforts. So if residents are taking it upon themselves to do that brush clearance, do additional home hardening, they will be able to have an individualized assessment of their home to ideally bring down some of those costs. So those are conversations that are happening right now. Happy to keep you all informed of how that will impact residents in a positive way. And then lastly, there are several bills in the sober living home space this year that is coming as a result of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee releasing a state audit end of last year. That audit was sponsored by Townsend Public Affairs, and it really outlines some of the shortcomings of oversight coming down from the Department of Health Care Services. And so the auditor recommended some different approaches to remedy those shortcomings, and we are seeing those being brought to life with the about dozen bills that have been introduced in that space this year. And with that, I will hand it back over to Corey to discuss federal update.
Okay, thank you, Elisa. Starting with California DC dynamics, of which there are several. The president has signed several executive orders related to climate change, including one in April that directed the U.S. Attorney General to identify and challenge state and local laws that imposed carbon penalties or taxes. This specifically targeted the California Cap and Trade, which has been renamed the Cap and Invest program. He also proposed restricting funding for grant programs that reference climate change. Attorney General Bonta has pushed back. He has filed multiple lawsuits against the president for halting funding for climate change and energy projects. Similarly, as it relates to immigration, in January, the president released an executive order directing the federal government to withhold federal funds for cities that obstruct immigration enforcement. California is a sanctuary state, as designated by Senate Bill 54 that was passed in 2017. And Attorney General sued the administration for this action. In April, a federal judge blocked the order, citing constitutional limits on the federal government, imposing conditions that Congress has not approved. A major theme of what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now is executive orders are being released by the administration. Attorney General Bonta, along with many other states across the country, are suing. And up to this point, the majority of executive orders have been challenged, slowed down, or blocked by this litigation. As it relates to how is the federal government operating? From a process standpoint, they are currently operating under a continuing resolution through September, which means that we are operating at federal fiscal year 25 funding levels for the federal government. Congress is working on a budget reconciliation process. This is a process where Congress looks at overall spending levels, and if the House and Senate can reach an agreement of what those spending levels are, there is a lower vote threshold to pass this measure in the Senate. It only works for laws that directly change spending, taxes, or the debt ceiling. Reconciliation cannot touch policy. However, if you do not provide funding for something, that is an indirect way to effectively eliminate policy. The House is working towards completing their work on budget reconciliation. President Trump was on the Hill today, pushing the House to move forward with portions of his big, beautiful bill, including extending the 2017 Tax Jobs and Cuts Act, allocating funding for immigration enforcement, and increasing the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. There are significant hurdles and challenges among House Republicans in how to do this. Medicaid money has been put on the table as a significant funding stream that would likely need to be eliminated if all of the president's initiatives were to go into effect. There has also been a lot of conversation around increasing the state and local tax deduction, the SALT limits, which would benefit Californians, and language around energy tax credits. There's much still to come with this. However, the House is likely to call a vote on Thursday. The House is trying to finish their budget reconciliation bill before the Memorial Day holiday so that they can send the bill over to the Senate. The Senate is very likely going to make changes because they have already stated that they disagree with the text of the House bill. The Senate will send a version back to the House, and the two sides have to agree on the exact same bill in order to move forward with reconciliation. Again, meaning the Senate can pass the bill with a simple majority instead of a supermajority. So many conversations to come around that, not a lot of time. The factor in all of this is something called the X date, which is when the debt ceiling must be raised. The Secretary of Treasury sent a letter to President Trump saying that he expects that date to be somewhere around mid-August, meaning that if budget reconciliation is going to happen, it needs to be done by beginning to mid-July. While all of that is happening, we also have the appropriations process running a parallel path in Washington, D.C. Sorry, Jay, if you don't mind going back. We'll get to the good part of what's happening in DC in a minute. There is a good part, I promise. On the appropriations process, the president released his skinny budget about a week ago. This is more a statement of values and a signal to where the president's priorities are than a complete budget request. In that skinny budget, President Trump did propose eliminating CDBG funding and home funding. As the previous presentation mentioned, this has been a consistent theme across many presidents for decades. Congress has always upheld the funding levels for CDBG funding and home funding. So decisions will not be made until September 30, which is the end of the federal fiscal year. Congress has not passed an on-time budget in over a decade, so it remains to be determined if this will be the year where they pass an on-time budget. But there is time to advocate for those funding levels to be restored to ensure that the funding specifically for Costa Mesa remains available to you and your residents to use. And now the good part of the presentation, I'll go back to Elisa.
So this slide outlines the 4 projects that we submitted to Congressman Min for him to review and potentially move forward as one of his community projects. Each member of Congress gets 15 projects to move forward in this process. Of the 4 we submitted, we are in ongoing conversations with the congressman about 2. So I will give a brief overview of each. The Real-Time Crime Center, we are asking for funding to create a centralized hub for law enforcement information to be shared in real time. This is certainly something that other cities are taking on as well, and we are seeing an interest in things like public safety technology this year in particular. Next, the West Side Substation is being proposed as a rebuild of an outdated station to better serve the community's public safety needs. Next, we've got the Senior Center renovation that has piqued the interest of Congressman Min as well. And then lastly, some improvements to the Victoria Street corridor. And we've got some details there as well as it relates to the funding that we have requested for those. So those conversations are ongoing. The congressman has not yet publicly put out his list of 15, but we are keeping hopes high that he has interest in at least 2 of our 4 projects. And then the last slide from us, just wanted to outline our advocacy program and how we are working with city staff on an ongoing basis. We have regular check-in meetings with city staff. Jay and I are communicating even more regularly than that. We are working with the city to identify legislative and budget priorities for this and upcoming years. We provide consistent reports on a weekly basis as well as monthly comprehensive reports to update the city on priority issues as well as the happenings in both Sacramento and DC. Happy to be helpful in any advocacy trip planning. I know we had folks from the city up just a couple of weeks ago, and we were happy to house them in between their meetings. Certainly have ongoing advocacy efforts in both DC and Sacramento as it relates to both legislation and budgetary priorities. And then lastly, we are continuing to build out and develop and strengthen our relationships with not only our legislative delegation, but also with legislative leadership. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
And actually, if you indulge me, maybe we'll take questions after I present, unless there's something.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Let me bring this. So I will pull up our presentation on the legislative platform and the bill matrix, which segues nicely into what Elisa and Corey just brought up. Make sure I put this up. Great. There we go. So thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm pleased to present to you the proposed legislative platform for adoption. Receive your input and direction on how we can improve or refine this document. Tonight is the first time the full council is receiving a proposed city legislative platform aligned with city council goals to proactively identify policies for engagement. The adoption of the platform is a first step to guide us forward. It will help us in developing legislation, amendments, or funding requests. Lastly, I will discuss tonight the city's review process and the bill matrix listing state bills for adopted positions. The platform is based on City Council goals, priorities, and includes principles developed with input from directors. It is also a result of discussions with the Legislative Review Team, which is comprised of the Mayor Pro Tem, and the City Manager, where feedback was provided to ensure that the platform reflected city values and collaboration on local priorities. These are the adopted City Council goals that we used to develop principles for the platform to identify federal or state policies of a potential impact to the city. Following are slides that provide a high-level summary of the platform that is in attachment 1 to the staff report. Now, beginning with the public safety and quality life goal, this is an area that generates several legislative ideas every year. While federal and state actions can support local efforts to reduce crime or improve services, it can also lead to unfunded mandates or a one-size-fits-all approach. Our focus here is on preserving and supporting local public safety priorities, funding and incentives for the city's values in active transportation, infrastructure, and local programs. Now, federal and state actions, while maybe well-intended, can diminish public safety and quality of life from a local perspective by imposing mandates or cutting essential services. Under the goal of long-term fiscal sustainability, we are focused on avoiding major policy changes at the federal and state level that create uncertainty in delivering services. The principles under this goal are focused on stability and transparency to support increased public safety, maintain local review authorities, and funding for capital projects. Therefore, we are opposed to shifting federal or state responsibilities to local agencies, imposing limits on local regulations or cost recovery. Our next council goal is focused on housing, which continues to be a priority for the state and increasingly at the federal level too. We are aligned with many local agencies calling for state funding to address homelessness and approve coordination amongst local and state agencies like Caltrans while preserving existing programs. This includes supporting funding for housing that incorporates behavioral health needs, sensible building and life safety codes, and federal programs like CDBG and HOME that the city relies on for our bridge shelter and grants to other local groups as previously discussed. Naturally, we oppose limiting those funds or restricting other fees that can offset the impacts of housing. Under the city goal regarding facilities, technology, and equipment, we also look to support infrastructure and oppose the diversion of local funds. Specifically, the state can assist the city through grants and bond funding. Federal funding is also an important resource for improvements to regional infrastructure. A continuing theme, as you may have noticed, is to oppose any diversion of local funds. Lastly, on the goal of environmental sustainability and climate resiliency, we look to continue investments in clean energy transition and oppose efforts to eliminate support to cities and residents. The state has led these efforts by funding planning activities and project implementation. Additional incentives and investments are needed to build out vehicle charging infrastructure and to improve efficiency across all levels. These efforts require a multi-year investment strategy, and therefore we oppose eliminating programs at the federal and state, as this will only delay progress and eventually lead to higher costs. So now, how does the city use this platform as a guide? Here we have the city review process displaying how our internal process will start. Staff and TPA will identify measures that align with the platform principles, but it can also begin with requests from the legislative review team, legislative partners, and community-based groups. Once a proposal is identified, we will make an initial assessment, review the committee's analysis if there is one, discuss it with our directors, partners, and consider community comments. Finally, we will present bills that fall under the platform to the legislative review team, or if it is in an area not covered by one of our platform principles, to the full council. In addition, if we need to expedite a position, City Council Policy Number 8 allows the mayor to sign letters when our partners have taken a position. And this brings me to the bill matrix. Speaking of our partners listed on the matrix, we have several bills sponsored by Cal Cities and supported by Association of California Cities, Orange County. I won't go through each, but I will highlight a few. AB 476 by Assemblyman Gonzalez deals with metal thefts, something we've experienced here at the city. And this bill would increase fines for dealers or collectors of junk who are found to unlawfully purchase or be in possession of public agency materials such as copper, cable, lead, solder, mercury, iron, or brass. And the bill would also increase fines for possessing public utility items, such as fire hydrants. The bill also requires junk dealers, salvagers, or recyclers to conduct due diligence to confirm sources are legal, maintain records of purchase and sale, and identifying details of sellers of material. The next bill I will go over is Senate Bill 346, which deals with short-term rental facilitators. These are entities like Airbnb, VRBO, other online groups. This bill allows local agencies to adopt an ordinance to require facilitators report specified information to identify properties such as the address, parcel number, and website of those properties. In this case, Costa Mesa's ordinance may require revisions to apply these requirements if this bill is signed into law at the end of the year, and if it goes into effect next year. The following two bills I'll discuss are also Cal City-sponsored bills and supported by ACCOC as part of their Sober Living Home package. The first bill, AB 492 by Assemblyman Valencia, requires notification by Department of Healthcare Services to local agencies when it issues a license to operate a treatment facility. And the next bill, Senate Bill 329, also in the Sober Living Home package, requires Department of Healthcare Services to assign complaints within 10 days and to complete them within 60 days or notify the complainant of reason for delay. We feel that this bill would assist cities who are sometimes the originators of complaints or dealing with residents who have made their own complaints. And lastly, I will go over the next group of bills. At the request of the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets and public comments that we received, city staff is recommending support for all these bills here, except for two that I list as neutral. Senate Bill 79 has no direct impact on the city, as we do not have rail transit where this bill seeks to prioritize housing. Therefore, we did not recommend the position. Senate Bill 358 is another bill where we are not recommending a position. It underwent significant amendments on May 1st, and a question remains for us if the reduced traffic impact fees that this bill seeks are balanced by the bill's goal to locate housing near specific land uses that it cites, such as restaurants, hardware stores, coffee shops, and bars. Fortunately, the bill no longer requires a 50% reduction of traffic impact fees, but just a lower rate. Again, on these two bills, we didn't feel there was a significant impact on the city for staff to recommend the position. The other bills align with the city goals and the proposed platform principles for us to recommend support. I will close with our recommendations and the staff report, as we recommend to receive and file the update on federal and state budgets from Townsend Public Affairs, to review and adopt the proposed legislative platform, and to adopt the recommended legislative positions. But of course, we'll take any questions on any portion of the presentation you'd like to ask us.
Council? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, and thank you for the very thoughtful presentation. I actually want to follow up on SB 79, the public transit housing bill. So you mentioned that it doesn't pertain to Costa Mesa. Could you elaborate a little bit on that bill and where the request to analyze it came from?
Yes, that bill was listed by the Costa Mesa Alliance of Better Streets in a letter and also in public comments that we received about a month ago. So it is posted, I believe, on their website as a package of bills. So we wanted to include that for the council consideration. And again, the reason no impact for the city is that bill applies to transit-oriented development stops that are defined as areas that serve heavy rail, commuter rail, light rail, or ferry. And so none of those types of transit locations exist in the Costa Mesa.
Would it be inappropriate for us to still support a bill, even though it doesn't impact us?
No, it's council's discretion.
Okay, because I need to ask as a question. I guess the question would be, wouldn't it be beneficial to support any bill that supports housing, even if not necessarily in Costa Mesa? But that's kind of my comment, so okay. Thank you.
So regarding this same bill, SB 79, so it would apply to our neighboring cities, Santa Ana and Irvine.
Yes.
So those are the neighboring cities, and then all the other cities with rail transit. Like, for example, the cities in our fabulous fifth district that go down the, the Metro Rail.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the Mission
Fabulous
Viejo and
fifth.
San Juan, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the fifth council district. Yes, those areas would be impacted. I do believe Cal Cities had an opposed position on this before the May 1st amendment. So Lisa's shaking her head, yes. Like I said, the May 1st, I'm sorry, that's the other bill. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. So I know this bill is currently pending in the Appropriations Committee. Could potentially be some significant amendments. I'll let Elisa jump in.
Elisa?
I do just want to note that the League of California Cities is opposed to this one. It's a little bit nuanced in that it allows transit agencies to utilize any property that they own to build any kind of housing that they would like without any input from local governments. So it does kind of take away some of that local control for a lot of cities that do have transit agencies that own property within their jurisdictions. So just want to note that it's a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, and I just add, I think this bill also has a little flavor of Northern California in the sense that you're dealing with, up there you have a BART agency, the Bay Area Rapid Transit, that's an independently elected board, unlike here where we have OCTA that includes individuals like the mayor and local officials. So I think this bill and the author are approaching it from a very unique perspective.
So the BART board is elected by the voters?
Yes, they have independent districts that they're not appointed by their agencies. So.
Oh, okay. All right, any other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Reynolds?
Hi, Mayor, thank you. I may have some questions on that particular topic, but I wanted to ask sort of procedurally what we can do with this item tonight. I think everyone at the dais and probably staff would be horrified by the number of comments I have written down on this. I'm highly engaged in a lot of activity on the energy side, obviously the transportation side, and I just don't, given the time of night, I'm not sure it makes the most sense to go through all of my comments right now. I think this idea of the legislative platform is fantastic. I just think there's some work to be really clear about what we are and aren't pursuing, and then to clean it up. In addition to that, it wasn't really presented, but I think the suggestion on the process moving forward is different than what's written in our council policy. So it seems like that's something that needs to be updated. So I just wanted to kind of clarify process. Is the goal tonight, or can the plan tonight to be to give maybe some high level feedback on the platform, and then, offer an opportunity for some more detailed input for staff to bring this back for sort of formal approval? Otherwise, I'm going to go through 100 comments.
Yes, we can, the council, I think we listed here as an alternative, is to drop the platform. If there are portions you object to, we can adopt a portion of it, or we could adopt it and come back and add to it. Our intention is that this is kind of a living document, being the first time it's coming to the city. I anticipate that we would have additions either at the end of the year, maybe when we do a legislative summary, or as we prepare for next year. But again, yes, it could be adopted or adopted in portions, or we could be directed to come back. Yes, those are all options.
Thank you. Let's hear from the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was, my question was more for the mayor and council. I'm making a judgment here on whether to go into my detailed comments. So,
do you?
Mayor, I know you're the head of this committee. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm not making a motion here, but just sort of asking, is your intent, or are you in any way against sort of bringing this back so that I can share more detailed feedback separate from this meeting?
So if we did it that way, there would be fewer than 100 comments?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Just thank you. Just trying to figure out the process here. Yeah, and then I guess I don't have questions on SB 79, but I'll have comments on it. So I'll save that for later. Thank you.
So my only question about the colloquy we just had is the timing piece. So if we decide we're going to defer taking a position on some of these bills, will our window close? And
Mayor,
it doesn't matter.
can I clarify
Yeah, of course.
my thoughts? So I think there's three pieces here, right? There's the legislative platform, which is sort of generally the guidelines that drive how the legislative team assesses advocacy and bill support.
Right.
There's also our council policy in terms of the process for doing this work going forward. And then separate from that is the specific bill support or not support. So my ask to council is that the first two, we take high level feedback and then have staff update and bring back to us. But I'm not suggesting that we don't adopt or not adopt specific positions on bills and process, just to clarify.
I have a follow-up question based on Councilmember Reynolds' comments. Would it be inappropriate for us to add things now to the criteria we look at? Because I don't want to have us come back if Councilmember Reynolds knows what she wants to add or tweak.
No, it wouldn't be inappropriate. That's if the council wants to adopt, if there's issues that we haven't covered, I'm all ears. But again, out of respect of the time, we could also have that conversation outside of this meeting and consider what additional requests she may have if there's issues we didn't cover.
Okay, because I mean, it sounds like there's an idea already in her mind. So I'm interested in hearing it if she has her thoughts ready now.
The problem is it's 100 ideas and all.
So can you please answer my question?
Sure. So typically, the legislature likes to hear our position on bills in that first house. I will say if it's positive news, they're okay with us adding on in support in the second house. But typically, if it's opposition, they want to know earlier on, sooner rather than later. So just would recommend that any bills that we are intending to oppose, that maybe we move those forward a little bit more quickly.
We don't have any of those on the matrix.
Then we're in good shape.
Then we're in good shape. Then so timing is not as critical. Thank you for answering my question. Okay, let's go to the. Did we go to the public already? No, I was about ready to do that, and so let's go to the public. 3, 2, 1. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes. Phone number ending in 613, please.
613. You have the floor.
Yes, hi, good evening. First, I'd like to address the misinformation about the stock market volatility. Our country has been sold out by sending jobs overseas. The current administration is trying to bring jobs back to America, which is going to create growing pains. And through this movement, the growing pains are actually surprisingly minor. So I wouldn't worry about that. The thing I'd like to point out about California, which should be the best economy, with the best schools, with the best public safety, with the best everything, is we're not. We're not anywhere near any of this because we're run by Democrats. Democrats have run the state into the ground. We pay the most in taxes and we have the least to show for it. Look at what we pay per student in school. We're at the low end of academic competency, which is embarrassing. And if you think about it, in California, we pay 20% federal, 13% state. That's 32%. 32% means that if you work 10 days, 3 days of your employment go to taxes, and you have nothing to show for it because it's the worst. So every 2 weeks that you work, you have nothing to show for it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the majority on this council is responsible for that, and they will keep it going. I wrote down so many notes about what we can do, what we can advocate for. I hope it all blows up because everything we've done hasn't done anything good for us. Nobody knows what they're doing on this council. They're absolutely clueless. And they're going to run us off a cliff. I mean, you work 3 days out of 10 days to pay your tax bill, and you have nothing to show. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And we're hiring.
The next speaker is Mark, please.
Mark, you have the floor.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Mark Vuksevich. I think most of you know me as a Costa Mesa City Council member, but I'm also a board member of the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets. And in this particular conversation, I'm the state policy director for an organization called Streets for All, and I'm currently calling in from Sacramento in support of SB 79. SB 79 is a Streets for All sponsored bill in an effort to get more housing and build more housing near our major transit stops. And I wanted to advocate in support of Costa Mesa taking a support position on the bill. And I want to first and foremost affirm the analysis of the bill. 0% of Costa Mesa would be upzoned under the provisions of SB 79. And so one might wonder why I'm suggesting that the city of Costa Mesa take a support position. And I think the reason why is precisely that reason. This bill is going to largely upzone areas like a massive land area of Los Angeles, a large amount of Santa Ana near the streetcar, and then some of our train stations. Just to be clear, not all of the train stations in Orange County, they have to meet a service threshold, but some of the train stations in Orange County. And what I believe this is going to do is this is going to both buttress our transit systems that have been struggling since post-pandemic, but also, in general, California's transit systems have received a peak ridership in 2009. And so it's going to buttress our transit systems by having more proximate riders, but then ultimately is going to ease the housing crisis that is massively affecting the city of Costa Mesa. Even in my wildest pro-housing dreams, the city of Costa Mesa cannot build enough housing to accommodate the housing demand that exists right now, the massive, massive housing demand that exists right now. And in my personal and professional opinion, it is cities like the city of Los Angeles and our other major metropolitan areas that have actually been failing the region by not building housing that they should be. And this bill is going to be upzoning a huge amount of Los Angeles in an effort, in my opinion, to protect the city of Costa Mesa, which is not affected by the bill whatsoever. This sort of similar reason is the exact reason that Senator John Morlock supported SB 50. This was Senator Wiener's first attempt to support a bill around this transit-oriented development back in 2019. And he actually wrote a whole blog post with a really similar reasoning. I believe that upzoning our cities protects and keeps our suburban areas suburban and our rural areas rural. And I would strongly, strongly request the city of Costa Mesa take and support an I position on this bill to protect its local control and protect its housing stock and its affordability and affordability as a whole. I'd encourage the council members to reach out to Senator Troy on this issue. And lastly, I'm just going to deviate slightly. I do want to support kind of not voting on the final.
Sorry. Next speaker is Resilience, please.
Resilience, you have the floor.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. This is Roberto with Resilience Orange County. Thank you so much for discussing this legislative platform. Definitely agree that adding more time to this discussion to allow more feedback from the council members. I want to highlight 2 areas of your platform that I think are important to highlight for our organization. Under strengthening the public safety, The last bullet point there that you mentioned for opposing the unconditional release of violent and serious repeat offenders. When I read that, it made me think about SB 54, the state sanctuary ordinance, which, when we talk about some of these items, we're thinking about double punishment. We invest millions and billions of dollars in our criminal justice system. Folks, make errors, make mistakes. And we have to have the human capacity for folks to be able to redeem themselves. And folks do serve their sentences and are, reunited back with their communities. So when I don't think that statement is aligned with the values of SB 54. So, SB 54 has been law since 2018. And so I think something to the extent of, I would review SB 54 and see how that kind of, how those two statements are working together. The other was the section on housing, diversify, stabilize, and increase housing. There was nothing there as it relates to tenant protections. There is actually a bill, AB 1157, that is looking to address the rising rent and help stabilize rents. And so I would encourage staff and the council to look into or incorporating some sort of statement that reflects your support for tenants and to do something about the rising rent. And for folks to remain in Costa Mesa. Those are my two comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, Jennifer, please.
Jennifer, you have the floor.
Good evening, City Council and staff. This is Jen Tanaka. Like my colleague Mark Vuksevich, I am also on the board of the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for you guys taking a look at our legislative recommendations. We did put a fair amount of thought into those recommendations, and so I really appreciate you guys just taking the time to review them. That's wonderful. I also want to echo his support for Costa Mesa's support of SB 79. He makes a great point. I think that's exactly the way to think about it, is that housing is a regional need, not just a city need. And although the city of Costa Mesa has done a great deal on that front, we really can't go it alone. And it's very important that we get buy-in from other cities. And this would really help to facilitate, additional housing development in our neighboring cities and help take some of the pressure off of a city like Costa Mesa. So I think that's a great point. I also just wanted to put on your radar as something to perhaps consider putting in the kind of screening criteria for legislation is taking a look at how sales tax is distributed. This kind of goes under the fiscal responsibility bucket. The last couple of years, I think we've seen more tepid sales tax receipts than perhaps we expected, given the strong production of our local businesses, new businesses coming online, South Coast Plaza being just jam-packed. And I do wonder out loud if some of that is due to some of the fallout of the Wayfair decision. I know that the League of California Cities has been considering some reforms there to help equalize the sales tax distribution, as Costa Mesa is a majority sales tax city. I would just consider putting that on your radar as an area of legislation to investigate and perhaps support anything that would permit the city of Costa Mesa to claw back more of the sales that actually originate from our city. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you so much for your time.
No further speakers.
Close public comment.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to move that we accept the legislative platform, that we revise Council Policy 000-8 to, 1, make reference to the legislative platform, 2, to just update it. It still refers to a chief of staff. You should be in there. We should make reference to the process that we're going to be following. And 3, that we return with the legislative matrix at the next council meeting after everyone has had an opportunity to dive into the legislation and we've received any other input from our community partners.
Right. Do you wish to be heard on the motion?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Okay. Second? You're good? Anybody else wish to be heard? All right. Good stuff. Let's
Yeah,
go.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
yeah.
I do want to have an opportunity to make suggestions for additions and get clarifications on the legislative platform. So would the maker be open to continuing that item in the motion to collect and incorporate additional council feedback?
Yeah, that's fine. Second concurs.
Second's good. All right.
Thank you. I do appreciate it.
Yep.
Do you understand the motion?
Yes.
Ready to call for the question?
Yes.
Let's go.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Pettis? Councilmember Bewley? Councilmember Gameros? Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. So we're going to adjourn the meeting at the request of Councilmember Bewley and me, the mayor, in honor and memory of Pat Chamberlain, and at the request of Councilmember Gameros, to all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in military service for our country. We're adjourned. Adjourned to the closed session.
Thank you.